All right.
My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talking about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony Sied. A pleasant welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. And it is a day set aside to talk national issue in a very tough manner. We have our standing panelists seated. We have two major issues on the menu, and the issues are very serious. And I am excited about these two major topics that we are discussing today. Well, it is now known in Liberia that austerity measures are being talked about, and even our government is seeing the need to do so. Why? Because funding that they call budgetary support to the Liberian government is clear will be cut off, because the new government of the United States say, hey, we're not going to be doing that and be giving you some money. And so the government is saying, hey, we need to cut down. We need to cut something off. So how serious is the government on this austerity measure talk? Are they just going to talk the talk and not walk the talk and not do the talk? The panelists are here. Well, also the government of Liberia, surprisingly, has invited some fire experts from the United States, 3 of them from Konyene and myself, home state of Minnesota. And our understanding is that they are either there or on their way to investigate the fire incident that took place at the Capitol that brought the Capitol almost completely down to the ground. Well, the government did its own investigation, found some people guilty. They are in jail. Some of them were in NSA's hand. They complain about torture and all that. So the government found some people guilty, and even they are serving some jail time. And while that is happening, the government is saying, we are calling the expert. Oh, really? Anyway, the panelists are here. They will make sense of all these for us. And to you in cyberspace, we are inviting you to join the discussion. Do us that favor and share the broadcast. Seated and ready to roll is J. Victor Nambe. When you hear that, J. Victor, he's from the Progressive Day. He's focused on liberal political analyst. J. Vic, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Anthony, it is good to be here, and good evening to my fellow panelists as well as our viewing audience. It's a great day to be here.
Man, I see that your smiles have increased, and the Eagles not that Super Bowl, my man. That's a good thing.
We're sitting on top of the word.
You guys are flying. I like that. All right. If we are talking austerity measures, that got to be something more about economics. Focus on liberal resident economist is here. He's seated to help us make sense of what the government is talking about. And, his friend called him Adam Smith. He has been a good student and has become a good professional when it comes to economics. Tom, I don't know why I'm not seeing you on the screen. You stay in the broadcast here. Tom, welcome. How you doing? Unmute yourself there.
I'm doing fine. It's great to join the team tonight to discuss the issues that we have. Hi to all the panelists and hi to all the listeners who normally listen to us on Thursdays. I don't know why I'm not on the screen.
Yeah, Tom, myself, I experienced that the other day. Get out and come back in. I think it's coming from Stream, what do you call? Stream, yeah. All right, thank you. Also seated is Focus on Liberal New Progressive commentator. He also an author, Dr. Clarence Pearson, my good friend. Welcome. How you doing?
Thank you, Mr. C. It's a pleasure being on tonight. Just want to acknowledge all my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure being on the set with you all. And hi to the listeners and the viewers out there. Look forward to a beautiful show tonight again.
Thank you. It's good to always have you here. Dr. Jones O'Malley Sr. is here. Dad, it's good to have you here. This is Tough Talking Thursday. I don't know how prepared are you to talk tough on these two major issues you have. Welcome.
Well, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to participate among the great panelists. Mm-hmm. And I know there will always be fresh time to talk because the more our country dramatizes so many things, we'll have so many time to appear.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Anthony Wonder Conyunen Freeman, and Anthony, an economist, financial crime specialist, and he is a member of the Focus on Liberia team. It's good to have you, Conyunen. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm great, and the passion for Liberia burns, and so we are here with the fireworks.
He said he has come with the fireworks to talk Mama Liberia and how we can make it better. We have Jerry Bacon comfortably seated, smiling there. He has something to offer in this discussion. It's good to have you, Jerry. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to be among the panelists, to be among the guests. For Jack from Biyandoru to be among the intellectual is a blessing.
I would just say amen to that. Gentlemen, two major important issues for us to discuss. Let's get to them right away. And let us start with the austerity measures. We will get to the other issue on the menu, talking about investigators there. I am concerned about austerity measures in our country. We're talking economic. In my understanding, the economics of the country is the blood of the nation. So I will start with Adam Smith. That is Tom B. Cannon, who is our resident economist. Tom, the government is talking austerity measures. Has it become necessary now? Has this been necessary all along? Is the government serious? Has the government come up with a formal position or statement or what they actually want to do at this time, given where we are?
Thank you, Anthony. I think we've discussed this issue one or two programs, but maybe it would just be good for us to give a background to why we are where we are.
Okay.
Because normally austerity measures are in response to economic crisis.
Okay.
So before you talk about austerity measures, there must be a shock or a crisis that you are trying to address. So what is this crisis that we are trying to address? So President Donald Trump was inaugurated in January of this year for his second term as the U.S. president, and he took a couple of actions through executive orders. And one of the executive orders was to suspend international development aid that comes from the U.S. for 90 days. So they basically froze every aid, not only coming to Liberia, all over the world for 90 days. And then while the freeze was put in place to be able to review, they said they were going to review whatever programs that they were funding across the world. So as that review was going on, programs and projects around the world started to be canceled. So Liberia has had some cancellation of programs. And as of the update that I got today, globally, there are 5,800 programs, USAID funded programs that will be canceled around the world. So this is in Africa, this is in Asia, this is in maybe Eastern Europe and other parts of the world. Specifically in Liberia, before the freeze, we had 50 active USAID projects. So these were projects in health, in education, in democracy and governance, and across other areas. As of today, 14 of these have been cancelled.
Wow.
And the cancellations amount to around 80 million of funding that will be flowing into the economy. So because all of these programs have been paused, all of the activities have been stopped. If you were working with these projects as a civil society organization, maybe doing an awareness in Nimba County, as of January 24, there was a stop work order that was issued. And that order meant everything that you were doing for USAID, disarm, stop, and come back to town. So there were people in the counties that were conducting workshops, they had to come back to town. All the USAID vehicles have been grounded, they are parked in the vehicles. Their offices are inactive. Some of the projects that have been cancelled, they've given termination letters, people have left. So this comes as a shock to the economy because these projects were being implemented, they have people working for them, they were being paid, they were consuming things, they would buy from the economy, and all of that has stopped. So there are different channels through which this pause or this spot in aid is affecting us. One side affects us is that it reduces tax revenue because everyone that was working and was paying taxes, we can no longer get these taxes because they are not working. The other channel through which it affects us is that the goods and services that these projects were buying, they buy fuel to go out of town, they rent cars and all of that, everything has stopped. And then the stationaries they buy for their offices, computers, copy books, pen, and everything, all of those things have stopped. And then they were also funding critical services in our social sector. For instance, our medicine store, when we buy all of the medicines to ship them out to the counties, the general medicine store that is used by the Ministry of Health was funded by USAID. So that has stopped. So that means the government of Liberia has to step in. So overall, when you calculate, I mean, if you look at through the different channels that is affecting you, it comes like a shock to the economy. Just like things were moving smoothly, and then suddenly you hit against something and it becomes a shock. So this is where we are as a country. With all of the millions that were flowing into the country through these projects, it has now stopped. And the government is struggling to be able to identify sources of revenue through which we can be able to take on these activities that the USAID projects were doing. And let me just hasten to say that the USAID funds were not on budget. That means they were not in our national budget, but they were funding activities that the national budget should actually be funding by ourselves. So if they pause, that means we need to pivot and move towards them. So that's why you are hearing bring the budget. We need to recast the budget, and then we need to put in place these austerity measures. So
And,
just
and,
yeah.
and Tom, I want you to learn on this. What I want to know now, has the government now communicated formally what measures it will be taken as a result of these, supposed have been cut off.
Okay, so it has been a couple of discussions. Initially, when the pause took place, it was the Senate that raised the alarm. I think Senator Cornell and Senator Dillon wrote a letter inviting all of the ministries to come who are affected by the pause. So, like I said previously, I was a bit surprised because I expect the Ministry of Finance to have been the one to blow the alarm. So they had also invited the finance minister to go and say to them what was happening, to be able to address this issue. And what the minister said was that they are doing the assessment to be able to see the full impact. I think today there was a cabinet meeting that was held, and the minister yesterday in his appearance to the Senate said that he was going to make a report. He had already tabled a report with the president, and it was going to be presented in cabinet today. So he shared some snippets of things that they wanted to do in that hearing. They are looking at some issues related to expenditure rationalization. The ministry put up a circular, I think a memo last week, asking ministries to prioritize their priorities. To me, that wasn't very clear enough. I don't know what that means, because if you prioritize all your priorities, you just go as normal. So there are already measures that they have been putting in place. And the Senate, people like Dillon are saying we should cut salaries. Today I listened to the representative for Bone County, Member Briggs, who's also talking about cutting salaries. People are talking about that. People are talking about vehicles and all of that. So that report is not yet out in the public. But normally when there are austerity measures, we know exactly where the measures come from, because they have to be a combination of actions on the tax side and also in the expenditure side.
Tom, thank you so much. I think you have given us, a summary of everything we need, and is concise, at the same time detailed enough.
Yeah,
Going on.
yeah, I differ very strongly with his position.
So let me hear you. What is your disagreement?
Let me say the first thing, as an African and as a Liberian, I want to bow my head in shame that we would take an action beneficial to Liberia, or not take an action beneficial to Liberia because the U.S. government has acted. It's a disgrace for a sovereign nation to decide, okay, let's do something better for our country. Let's revamp the budget. Let's reform government because the American government has acted. It's a shame. The next thing I want to say is that the amount of money that the U.S. government we are talking about is inflated. I work with USAID on some projects. Most of the monies are in consulting because the U.S. government does not fund our budget directly. They don't hand money over to us. So they bring in Americans. And even when they don't bring in Americans, they hire Liberians of high expertise with a harsh wage bill. So most of the time, that money is in consultancy. So it is not money that goes to the government or help in any direct way. In a way, supplementally, yes, but it's negligible. And when I say negligible, it's negligible considering the amount of money that is being wasted. For example, we are talking about well over $200 million looted by George Weah and his officers. Have we attempted to pursue that money? The money the U.S. government is holding, I understand, is 50 million, 80 million, whatever, but I believe the actual money coming to Liberia could be maybe 5 or 10 million. The rest of it is in consultancy for international people to come and work in Liberia. So that money is too small. So it shouldn't be the basis for us to reconsider. In fact, by the time, because Bwaka campaign on rescue, by campaign on rescue, it meant that the country was in an emergency situation. So the reform should have started the very day he set his foot in office. Is that what he did? No. He started buying $1 million car. He started with $3 million petty cash, $20 million for NSA. So it's a joke. So we shouldn't come here as Liberians. We've been independent for almost 200 years, and we are telling us that we will adjust or not adjust, reform or not reform based on what happened in Washington. It's a backward thinking. And I think we should stop thinking that way, because that is dependency. That is the dependency syndrome that has got Liberia to be backward. We should get away from that.
Anthony Freeman,
Yeah.
I want you to learn us then. So, in ton expose, he made it clear that the government have some kind of a circular going around that is not clear. So the government has not actually come up with a formal position saying exactly what they will call as a result of this shock. So my question to you is, we can agree that these measures are needed. We need to put in some austerity measures. The salary is not sustainable. The money is going to education is far less. The money going to agriculture is far less. But if you look at the top, even the very president and the vice president, all these, top government officials, they're getting so much money. So we need to come up with some austerity measures. The government is yet to come up with any. What Tom mentioned, that's not seriousness to me. So I'm asking you, what austerity measures befitting the situation we're in that you can recommend be taken?
Okay, so let's start with the easy things, like the benefits, which is not part of the salary. Those things can be cut off totally just by executive order, because they are not statutory, so they can be cut off by executive order. That's in the short term. In the short term, obviously, I see that you can cut off all these 50-man delegation and all these excessive travel. In the medium term, I will tell you what. You have to shut down some institutions, not cutting jobs, but shutting down institutions that are useless to the government, starting with NSA. Those are some of the institutions to shut down. For example, DEA, Information Ministry. Those are places to shut down. So when you are talking about reforming the government, we're not talking about just cutting a few people here and there, or say cutting salaries. We are talking about a restructure. How many ministries are good for Liberia? How many SEO? If we got 20 and we need 5, can we merge them? And can we eliminate the excess? That's the thing we expected this government to be thinking, because they came already, it was an emergency. So they can't tell me that the U.S. government action is the basis for the emergency, because you say you came to rescue. So Liberia already in a dying position when you took office. So it can't be on the basis of American government action. So those are things that they can take immediately. The other thing they can do, I tell you that for sure, is to launch a rigorous anti-corruption campaign. But how are they going to do it when Mr. Bwaka is in the forefront of committing bribery, wasting the country money, paying people who have facilitated financial crimes? So we have a big problem, and the problem is much bigger because the president who is presiding over the entire thing is presiding over a rotten system that is aiding, abetting, and facilitating crimes. So we have a big hole to go.
Thank you.
So, Anthony?
Yeah?
Let me just say that I was just giving a background. I wasn't taking a position, so I don't see the basis of disagreeing with me.
Yeah, but say I didn't see what he actually disagreed with there, but let leave it there. Let me come to you, Dr. Mallet, sorry. We are talking austerity measures here. Our government is yet to come up with a plan, an austerity plan. All right. They are alarming that they have to, and that this is a dire situation, but it's yet to come up with a plan. So maybe we can help the government here. You listening to Konyang. He has made recommendation. What measures, austerity measures, you think can be taken now befitting the situation that we are in as a nation?
Well, thank you, host.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, I just want to interject that there's no need for us to make His Excellency President Joseph Boakai the sacrificial lamb for this problem. The question of dependency syndrome has been associated with us as a nation since 177 years. Joseph Boakai just been fortunate at this spot and at this time for this thing to happen. So addressing the question of how can we get out of this basket, as I see it to be, there's a need to, first of all, work on the waste in government. We need to identify where there are waste in this government. We need to identify where there are fraud in this government. First of all, the government would need to disclose to us our domestic income. That's the first thing. How much is it coming from the construction companies? I don't know. How much is the Freeport of Monrovia generating every month? Our revenue sector, how much are we really getting? You see?
Well, that should be in the budget, right?
Dr. Mother, we have a budget. According to that projection, which is the budget, it is about 880 million. And Tom, you can correct me with the exact figure if I miss it. About 880 million. That is the budget. The question we're asking now is the government is alarming that, look, this budget actually not enough. We're getting support from, some part on the United States in particular, but they are cutting these things off. So we have to cut back. We need to put austerity measures in place. I'm asking you, what austerity measures can you recommend to our government so that we can have some issues on our hands here?
First, we need to downsize the workforce. That's the first thing.
And how do we do that? What do we downsize? What do we cut off and what do we maintain?
Well, we need to put a mechanism into place to see.
And I want you to give me that mechanism right now. We are in a dire situation and we want answers right now.
Okay.
And the government is to this point failing to give us an austerity plan that they can put into action immediately. You are the one I'm coming to do that for us. Give it to me.
First of all, we're going to look at the personnel file. Let's take APRC for an illustration. We're going to take the personnel file. We are going to retire some people. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Secondly, we're going to narrow down our functions to see which one of them is very appropriate to keep and which one can be deferred and which one can be canceled. That's the first thing.
Your fellow panelists, Konyinan, recommended that we should do away with NSA. We don't need that. We should do away with Ministry of Information. We don't need that. And I think he mentioned other institutions that we really don't need. Are you in agreement on that?
No, I'm not in agreement with that because these institutions were established by constitutional provision. So it's going to be another fight, you see. In fact, canceling NSA, we already have a fragile security situation in our country, you see. So I don't know why.
We have the military, we have the police, we have the immigration service. I think you mentioned the LDEA too, right?
Yes, those are some of the useless agencies of government.
The LDA also deal with drugs. Do you know the harm the drug is causing in our country? To shut down.
Without the police.
All right, these are specialized areas. You get specialized people working there. You can get that's not the police job. You see. And shutting down information, that will even be more detrimental to our existing as a country.
How? What is the Ministry of Information doing for us as a country that is so vital that, getting rid of Ministry of Information will put us in any trouble?
Good. The Ministry of Information exists to do 4 basic things. One, they market the image of the country to the outside world.
You think they are doing it? You think they are doing it?
No, that's another phase of the debate. They should be doing it.
If you are agreeing that they're not doing it, what's the essence of it?
No. I said that is another phase of the debate. I don't have all the facts whether they are doing it, but they should be doing it. That one aspect. And secondly, we need a communication medium. LBS is responsible to market image as well and to engage the community and to also propagate what government is doing. The information ministry go beyond that level. They speak for government. All right. Then we'll argue that we have a press secretary. Yes, the press secretary function is limited. The information ministry, as far as I'm concerned, from my assessment, You have information ministry in almost all government sector, as I know from my assessment.
All right.
So shutting down this ministry, to me, it will not be necessary.
So let's go to the budget, Dr. Mallet. Let's go to the budget. I don't know if you have taken time to at least go through the budget a little bit. Are there things you see in the budget now that we all agree austerity measures are needed that can be cut off from the budget that are not necessary?
Yes, I have gone through the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The salary for the House of Representatives has to be revisited seriously. The benefit of the House of Representatives has to be cut down. There are a lot of waste in there. Let's get back to LPRC. Even the issue of the gas slip, I don't think we need it. We can cut it off and get a gas station posted around that government official go there to get gas to justify what they want to do with the gas.
And how is that different from the gas slip? You're still giving them gas. Why not cut the whole thing off?
The gas slip.
Why they can't buy gas from their own income? Why they can't buy gas from their own income?
Okay, then if that would be the case, then we tie it into their salary.
No, we want to get rid of it. We try to. You're not making it different. You're just moving the goalpost. It's not making any different.
No, you can. The gas slip is not in the salary. These are extra incentive coming to these guys.
And we are saying those things should be cut off completely so that we can save money. But you are saying move it from instead of it being in the back pocket, put it in the front pocket. That's why you are telling me.
No, but I don't know how we want to do this thing. There is no way you can script the government. I mean, naked with all these things. You can.
There is an employee of the Ministry of Information, Dr. Mahler. He earned $40 US, and then about $2,000 Liberian dollars. He shows off to work. He does not have gas slip. He does not have car. He does not have medical insurance. Nothing. He shows off to work. Minister X is making $5,000. He has a car government is paying for. And you are telling me for that $5,000, he cannot buy his own gas. He can't buy his own strike card. But the guy down the line who is sweeping can get to work? Because that's what you're telling me. That we can't take gasoline from this man's pocket because he's too big. That's what I'm hearing from you, sir.
I don't know what constitutes the provision that you get $5,000 and you get all the extra benefit. I don't know what constitutes these things, and I don't know the detail of those benefits. But let's assume they are getting $5,000. Let's assume they are getting $5,000, and if this is proven to be true, then we will have to tell you we have to review the personnel policy of the ministry. Where in the $5,000, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that.
Thank you, Dr.
All these things are rating policy. They are there. So you can't just jump overnight and say, oh, you're going to slash this thing out. You're going to cause a whole lot of chaos in the government.
Dr. Mahler,
so I agree that we'll reduce the waste and tie these things into the salary. We can't just eliminate them completely.
Dr. Mahler, thank you. When you started your expose, you said we can't use Joseph Boakai as a sacrificial lamb. This is a country that been on the path for this long. Now to cut this thing up, and you are saying that, oh, no, we can't do it right away. This thing been going on and on. We can cut it off right now. I don't think it will cause any problem. In fact, we are talking about saving money. But let me leave it there. Let me welcome Honorable William G. Greaves Jr. Honorable Greaves, welcome. A long time no see. How you been, brother?
I've been doing very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Am I audible enough?
You are audible, loud, and clear enough, and it's good to have you again.
Thank you.
So Jerry Bacon,
yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
We're talking austerity measures here. I think Konyinan gave me something, that is robust. What do you have? Can you recommend to the government, to cut back on our spending so that we can keep the government running at the same time?
So here's the thing. We got to look at it from different perspectives.
Okay.
You say, I've been in the country for a very longer time. When I was a child coming out, you say always have been in Liberia. And I just left far. On me was in Liberia. When they left, there was a vacuum. Okay? When Ebola came, there's a vacuum. They left. And at this time, we are not even made preparation. When the organization left our country, we are not even prepared to say, okay, what is our action? We are not being proactive when it comes to the issues because nobody anticipated that you say we're going to leave. But the question we need to ask ourselves when you made left, the people who used to be the watchboard, security to the police, they all left, and there's a vacuum on employment in our country. They also create a problem in our country. Now you say it's leaving with all these things. But yeah, what I want to say to my brother from from there, there's no way, civil society that you're going to eliminate the security enterprise. There's no way. Because the government needs to survive based upon the intelligence and based upon, especially like that Leto, the DEA is a drugs issue. They need a drug enforcement in the country. So there are other means that we can reduce. But here, what I can reduce, what I can recommend, which is a wasteful one, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Somebody making $15,000 a month in Liberia, $15,000 with access, gasoline, free card, and things. You must say in the United States, where we work, when they hire you, say we're paying you $100,000, $125,000. That's it. That $125,000. That's where you're going to pay your mortgage. That's where you're going to send your children to school. That's where you pay your gas bill. That's where you pay your children school fee and everything. So it is time for us to start thinking because the money is too much for the institution. I mean,
are you saying for us to start thinking? I thought you're going to tell me is it time for us to cut this thing off immediately?
Well, you see, before you can't just be that aggressive and say we're going to do it. You got to study what is the impact going to be on society.
We're not studying this thing for more than 176 years.
The nation is drowning. The nation is drowning. The nation is on life support. The nation is
studying.
But that's the whole thing because you see, when you act aggressively and say without thinking, without doing analysis and every data you got, you just do it and say let's do it. When you become a reactionist, there's a problem. So you have to take your time and study before you make that decision. I know it's urgent, but we need to replace the money. Where we're going to get the people to pay the people? But the question here is, how long are you going to take us to study? It's not that much of a time. It's urgent, but at the same time, we got to do it.
What austerity measures can you recommend besides cutting the salary of the legislature? Because that's the only thing that I heard from you so far. Only the legislature salary should be cut here. Are they the only librarians working in the government and making big money?
No, I mean, take for example, I think the
central bank governance.
The central bank, exactly. You're making $60,000?
About that. About that. I think I heard about 56 something. That's why he makes.
50 some more $1,000.
Yeah.
How possible can it be? So these are wasteful salary.
It has also been reported that the commissioners at the LTA making about 15,000 as well. Or they were making 15,000.
We'll have to look at this thing. We'll have to look at this thing and say, look, enough is enough. We got to take some serious drastic measures on these issues. Definitely, it is.
Is that all? When they just cut salary and that will be okay? You think that is enough to savings for us?
Well, if we cut the salary, at least they will bring some budgetary something function of the government because right now the Liberian pool is not a problem. The government is the problem. How do we function? If we do this thing, what is the impact going to have on? So we have to take all things into consideration before making a decision. That's what I'm talking about tonight. And not just.
Jerry back on there, he said, look, cut salaries will save some money. I'm not sure that will be enough. J. Victor Namwe, a veteran who's been around. J. Victor, we're talking austerity measures. We got to go big, my friend. We got to go big. This is a rescue operation here. The patient is dying. We're looking for money because our Uncle Sam, who was trying to chip in, say it's not coming. What do we do?
Yeah, it is a tough question. It's pretty difficult. I think it's one that really calls for boldness, make the hard decisions. I agree with those who say we need to take a look at the compensation, salaries. I think something needs to be done there. I absolutely agree. one person earning $57,000 a month in Liberia. I think that's outrageous. But I also think that and Councilor Freeman, I think he was under something. A lot of us really expected this president to really, really get out of the box, and make some bold moves. For instance, shrinking the size of government, I think is something that really needs to be looked at. I mean, we have so many agencies that are, falling over each other because they're duplicating functions. I mean, my friend Duboyan is a loggerheads with the Minister of Health because the both of them seem to be doing the same thing. You come to the Financial Intelligence Unit, then you have the Financial Intelligence Authority. What is the difference? You go to telecom, you have the telecommunication authority, you have telecom, you have Ministry of Post and Telecommunications. So there are a lot of duplication, I believe, and that I thought the president should have taken a real hard look at and try to shrink the size of government. A country of 5 million people, I haven't taken a look at the people of working age in Liberia now, population wise, but 70,000 persons employed by the government of Liberia. They're crushing under the budget. They are crushing. No wonder why 88% of the budget is going towards recurring expenditure. So yeah, I agree with those who are arguing that we need to take a look at our salaries. I think why we're doing that, we should also take a look at the size of our government. I think the appetite we have for a country such as Liberia with such, GDP, I think our appetite is too big. I was thinking when we were getting ready to come on the show, I think as of 2022, which I think is the latest document around, our budget was being 50% of our budget was being financed by outsider international aid. Over 50%. Over 50% of the budget is being financed by outsiders. And so this cut by the U.S. government, the stop order, it will affect us in several different ways. But the sum total is that it's going to be a crushing blow because besides the direct investment, direct support to government sectors that we know of, we enumerate a number of them: education, health, other things. There are also institutions that they work through that also give to Liberia, the European Union, for instance, the Southeast Asian country. All of these people are going to start rethinking their support, to their partners. So net, it is a very, very, very monumental task that is, and I am shocked. I think it was Thomas who reminded us that Connor, I believe, and Snow and other, they were the first people, the very first week of this news, they wrote a letter and then they called in what were administrators to take a look. Why can't it come from the executive mansion? I've always said here, I think this is where I think this president really needs a retreat. Call your people together and sit down and begin to really plan. They're taking too long. They're taking too long because some of the money that should have been helping now is not going to be available. And in the long run, I think it's really going to cause a lot of problems. So quickly, they can huddle and decide on how. But austerity measures, yes, it is a must. And I agree with Councilor Freeman. This is something we should have really thought of a long time. We shouldn't have waited to be compelled to do so because of the stop order from the U.S. government. This is something we should have taken a look at. But now it is here. Even while it is here, we're still we're still dragging our feet and shuffling towards it until it will hit us in the head, and then we begin to cry, create national emergency. I said, now is the time, or yesterday was the time, when the government should have really taken a real hard look at this thing, impose some moratorium on some of the things we already talked about. Foreign travel, yeah, I saw they wrote something, they're reducing the amount of people who can travel and all of that. Yeah, they need something bigger than that. They need to do something bigger than that. Cutting gasoline from I think 500 to 200, all of that. They need to do bigger than that. So we're really encouraging the government. I think the fact that they're beginning to do something is encouraging because it means they're thinking about it. But they need to think about it quickly and they need to think about it bigly.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Graves, I want you to throw your focus in the foreign service cycle. We have too many embassies, and you can really inform us on that. Do you think there's a need to cut down on some of the embassies too, so as to save government money. You will remind us too that most of the embassies we're struggling with even paying the renters, the staff who have been sent overseas to represent us. Some of them not getting their compensation. Eh, can we find a way to save some money and cut down in our foreign service, given where we are now?
Thanks for having me once again. To fellow panelists, glad to be back here with you all. Oh, Mr. Salih.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so we got to put this in two perspectives.
Okay.
We're talking about the burden, financial burden, fiscal burden on government,
Right.
as well as this emergency situation. Um, yeah, we have a lot of diplomatic relations around the world, foreign policy. They are all meaningful. They are all well structured. To have a cut on the numbers of embassies you have around, you have to go through a long process. First of all, with that friendly nation, that nation you've established bilateral relations with, they got to be concrete and genuine reasons, and that's a full reform. That's a whole reform, long-term process. So with all of that, that still wouldn't fix the emergency we're having with our economy right now. So when the government come up and say, "Hey, we are looking at austerity measures," the government is telling the public, informing its citizens that we have an economic crisis. We have a problem. It's urgency. It's not something that is stable. It's not something that has been there for a long period. It's something we have found ourselves into, and we need to find a way to fix it, at least temporarily, until we can adjust. So I know most of my colleagues, the panel spoke about waste, fraud. We spoke about what the downsized workforce. All of those things are good things, but that cannot help. That wouldn't and couldn't help the situation. The situation we have right now, the government is telling you is extant. So I mean, it's happening now. We need it's an emergency. Your house is on fire, and then you call the fire service for the first responder, and they tell you, oh, you know, the car we had to change the engines, or they've got to buy a new set of vehicles. They stop. No, 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 no. So the fire, they're going to come to you first, try to put that fire off. Then they start finding measures on how can we, prevent this from happening in the future. How can we put other things? So every other thing we're talking about is long-term planning. Every other thing we're talking about is non-sequitur to this whole situation. Now, austerity measure is all about the economic crisis the government is with. What the government needs to do right now, what you're looking at restoring the fiscal stability as well as gaining the public confidence as you're doing this. So you want to be transparent enough. Come up with an economic plan, economic policy plan. These are the areas we're looking at. Be transparent with the public, communicate with the public, because once you have the public in sync with you and your economic policy plans, it makes it even better. It alleviates all the tension and stress off the government's back, so the government can work in an atmosphere that is free and they can think forward wisely. Now, what you're looking at when you talk about austerity measures, you're looking at fiscal budgets. It doesn't have to be in the specific areas. It doesn't have to be with the legislators' salaries and this person's salary or that person's salary. That is off the rack. So you're looking at the fiscal budget as a whole in totality. Then you're looking at segments within the fiscal budget, or where can we cut? Where can we make all the cuts and make all the readjustment? These are all quick fixes. Now, the next thing you do is that you're looking at regulate your government regulatory system. How's government regulating? Now, that benefits more the public, so the public don't feel the pinch of the economic crisis. So you want to cut down on regulations so that the private sector business can go on smoothly. Um, another area that people look at also most government will look at what taxes, which is not a familiar one, not a friendly one with a lot of citizens. Increase taxes. Hey, we're going to increase taxes for this period of time until we can cross over this barrier, this problem we have. So those are some of the areas government can look at
Taxes
right now
on
as
increase taxes on citizens who are already feeling the pinch of the economic
that
hardship.
And that's what I was saying. That's the unfamiliar ones, but they do it here in America. Now, there's no country that is exempt from this kind of situation, financial crisis, economic crisis, or whatever. We just had 1 year in the U.S. for almost 2 or 3 years, and what the government did is that you don't see every country borrow, every country beg, every country go. You don't America don't like I said. Well, back in the days when I was in the foreign service, you do not beg with your palm exposed. America beg, but they don't beg with their palm exposed. They beg with authority and confidence. So what they do is that because they have the power to print money, so you don't even know what's happening. They print the money, but what they sell that debt to other countries, China, in Asia, European countries, Russia, they buy all the debt to balance that printing of the money or whatever. That's why like America going, the interest rate goes so high. Now you see what 36 trillion in debt. All that money is owned by other countries around. So it's the same thing. It's not nobody got any economic measure to say we can stop any emergency situation.
I'm listening to
Yes.
you carefully, and you are coming across to me as saying, no, 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 no. You know, the foreign mission is a no-go zone. Don't touch anything.
That's exactly what I get up.
All our embassies, those diplomatic relations are very essential. Don't cut anything. And you know, that's what I'm getting from you. Tell me if I'm wrong. I feel that
What?
you need to make cuts
No.
almost
Let me.
necessary.
Okay. Let me be very clear.
Fine, please do.
When you're talking about budget deficits, austerity measures, I just cited and I repeat myself, cutting waste in government, looking at fraud in government. Excuse me. The workforce, those are all reform program, no agenda. Cutting embassies around the world in our diplomatic missions and what have you. It's a long-term fix. It's not an emergency situation. It's not a short-term goal. So you'll be doing all that while the austerity,
we have embassy in Sierra Leone. We have embassy in Ivory Coast. These are countries right around us. If we cut them up, you think the foreign mission, the foreign ministry can deal with those countries directly, and then we can save the money we're using. Even when you go in Europe, we have diplomatic mission here and there. Can we just cut those things off?
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. That's what I'm telling you. You've established a diplomatic relation with a partner, with another country. That's bilateral. You have terms, treaties, agreements, and all of that in that. So you're binding to that relationship.
I am saying,
if you want to cut it,
let's remove the physical presence in those countries, because those diplomatic installation costing us money. All right, the renter, the staff. Can you just pull that back for some time until we can stabilize, then we can see the need to go back to that? We're trying to see how we can save money.
That's a good idea. That's a good point. And I agree with what you're saying. But the process precludes that from happening. You cannot have a diplomatic relations established with a bilateral with another country and just cut it because you have an internal problem with your economic crisis. It doesn't work like that, because diplomatic relations are built on renewed trust, renewed confidence, and renewed assurances.
The government collapse and then the diplomatic missions die. Why not?
The thing is that
until at such point when you think that you are able to fund the mission.
I hope I'm being very, very clear. Let me try one more time.
You're very clear.
Those are. Yeah, come here. Let me.
We should do nothing.
Those are. I'm coming on. Let me finish. Those are long-term fixes, and those are reform structural goals. Those are not quick fixes. You cannot recall. You cannot abort your mission in Guinea or Sierra Leone because of your economic crisis. That's a breach in diplomatic relations.
The USAID, all right, that institution was established by Congress and by law, but he's basically defunding it. That's what he's doing. We're not putting money in this thing. That's what he's doing.
So, and that's what we're wrong on that. That's what we're wrong on that. That is a domestic affair of the United States government. That is not Liberia. It's not Liberia crisis.
So we're talking about domestic affair. We cannot sustain.
Yes. So what happened? What happened here?
Let me ask you this.
What?
We have to find ways to cut down. And you are saying
Yeah,
that
if I
is no
if I would
goal.
just land, okay, if I would just finish this point, the president, the president of the United States of America decided to put a temporary halt on the USAID operations abroad because they did their own investigation, evaluation, and whatever, and they came up with the fact that there were a lot of waste in there. So they are looking at the whole thing, trying to reform it. It's going to be reestablished, but it's going to be on a different. It's not a U.S. government foreign mission. That is an agency. That's an organization under the U.S. So it does not hold the burden of the U.S. relations with Liberia. We have established diplomatic relations with the United States of government far from USAID. USAID was an agency operating on its own. So that is different. Now, what I was coming to, and you didn't. I mean, I would land and I would just shut up.
Yeah, you got 30 seconds.
We're operating on two fronts here. So we have an emergency economic crisis in Liberia. It needs an immediate fix. Now, we also have the situation. We also have the situation with the U.S.
measures. Sorry, Honorable Greaves, I want you to be as clear as possible.
But he's very clear. He said we shouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Everything should
what
continue the way
austerity
it is.
measures
So,
you think we should take right now? At least one or two that you think we can take right now, because we all agree we need to take some austerity measures here. And in
you have a preconceived mindset of what I'm saying and what you think I'm not saying. When I'm explaining myself very clearly and distinctly, I just said austerity measure is an emergency economic crisis that need quick fixes. I said the government should be very transparent. The government should be very transparent with the citizens, with its people. Now, you come up with economic policy plans to restore the fiscal financial status of our country and stabilize it in this form. One is
I'm asking the government. What do you recommend to the government as austerity measures?
Just let me finish.
But you're not taking a recommendation because he's telling you we should do nothing, and you don't want to take a recommendation. He said we should do nothing.
If you stop interrupting me and stop,
you go over 30 minutes now. You go over 30 minutes. You said do nothing, and the man not taking your answer. It's do nothing.
Hold on, please. Honorable Greaves, my question.
So you do fiscal. You look at the fiscal budget. You look in certain areas, segment of the fiscal budget, and do cuts. That's an emergency fix. That's what you do. So you cut and slim down certain areas. The second,
I'm asking for
I do not know the government. I do not know the government. I do not know the full scope of the government fiscal budget. I can tell you cut here, cut there. No. What I can tell you is that what the government will do now is create an economic policy plan, a policy plan that will be transparent to the public, and they will talk about cutting certain areas in the fiscal budget that will make cut and make adjustments. The second one would be regulations, government regulatory system, and the third would be, which is the unfamiliar one, is the imposing taxes for temporary and other. So I made myself very clear. If you're not listening to me, don't blame me and say I
agree. You said that. Thank you so much. Thank you. You said increase taxes, maybe relax regulations a little
bit. On the fiscal budget,
and
regulations, government regulations.
Thank you. I got you.
I don't know. I know he's been going for a while. I just had a direct question for him.
Gentlemen, Ahmed Salif is focused on liberal governance advisor. He's here. This is within his domain. We're talking governance here on the economic side, much more. CM brother, it's good to have you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with these distinguished gentlemen. For disclosure, I warned I will be late, so apologies to our audience, but I think the host knew I would come late. It's a pleasure always to be here.
So, Ahmed, one or two about governance and even economics. And what we're talking about, when we're talking about austerity measure, another way that Conyers stated I agree with is fighting graft. You can save a lot of money. So talk to us. Our government is saying, hey, we need to put in some austerity measures, even though they're yet to come up with a plan. So we are soliciting plans or ideas and recommendations from Liberians. What should be the necessary austerity measures given where we are?
Thank you, Anthony. In my view is different. And what I've been hearing the whole time I was on my way home before joining the show have all been brilliant ideas. I'm not here to discount any of the suggestions that my colleagues have made here and other Liberians have made on social media and other places. However, I don't see this as an austerity problem. And Thomas is a trained economist here. He can correct me. Typically, when you talk about austerity measures, you're talking about a government that may be having trouble borrowing, that may be having loan challenges and things like that. The situation that we are faced with is not even a crisis. It's not even an emergency, in my view. This is an opportunity for our government to engage in maximum statecraft, because statecraft, and there's some loaded terms there. We can unpack some of them. Some of them may sound academic. Hold me accountable to draw examples and define what I mean by some of these things. State magnification. Let's stop thinking deficit mindset. Well, we're having a lot of recurrent cost problem, but 80% of our budget goes towards the wage bill, basically government recurrent expenditure every year, so for every budget circle. And we're saying, okay, how do we take the same budget here and find savings in this budget? And so the questions I keep hearing Anthony ask, you are really asking big questions of even mindset shift, questions of ambitious growth of the state, of the government, the rearrangement of the government system. Now what people are referring to as the former president
Magufuli.
Magufuli, right? The Magufuli sort of doctrine. They did some painful things. They said, look, we can grow our budget. We have natural resources. Our country is a rich country. We just have to change our ways of thinking, our ways of engaging in concessions, because our economy is largely an extractive economy. By that I mean concessions and rent on different natural resources and so forth and so on. And this is an African problem. It's not just a Liberian problem, where we sit there and don't even know exactly the quantity of our precious natural resource that's been literally extracted from Nimba, shipped through the port of Buchanan to a European or an American country or state. And we're okay with that. If we get some 5%, whatever the royalty is, I'm not too sure. The finance people and the economists can tell us. And we're okay with that. Our logs, our forests, our natural resources, you name it. Liberia, we always is a rich country, but our mindset, until it can shift, the way we govern, our approach to public service and public sector management, we will go nowhere. This is not new. There are metrics out there that calculate rate of growth and development based upon where you're going, how you've done in the past 10, 15, 20 years, or even, last decade, and the expectation projection as to where you will be in the next 20 years, in the next 50 years. We will not be a lower middle income country in 50 years if we continue to go and do what we're doing. So the Trumpification that people are calling it nowadays should be an opportunity to, it should be a point where we say, okay, so this is a wake-up call. It's a rude awakening of sort. I heard someone say, I think it was Mr. Freeman who was saying, they're right about that. The way USAID and the U.S. government largely does development assistance work, they don't do budget support because we don't have all the mechanisms that they demand, the Congress demand. They do what's called PFM-RAF, public financial risk assessment. They come and look at your institutions. How are you doing contracts? How are you doing what's your accounting system? What is your procurement system like? If they see any leakages there, they don't, in the U.S., AID never used to put money in any of our budget, unless maybe in minute situations, exceptions, right? What they did was what he described. They come and sit with our government and say, look, what do you need? These are the buckets, a basket of developments we have in Washington: democracy, economic growth, education, health, you name it. We say, oh, yeah, we need everything. And so, okay, we'll give you 4 of them, right? Long story short, they do what's called CDCS, Country Development Corporation Strategy, to align with our national medium-term development objectives, development plans. Ideally, the idea is they will help us with our agenda, but they're not giving us money. They design programs and projects, procure those, people bid on them, largely American companies, American experts, whatever they come. 80% of the money goes back to them. So they say they're helping our people. We don't get it cash. We don't, maybe they impact some of our sectors, but the money doesn't come to our country. So
thank you, Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah, our government has been slipping behind the wheel in that respect. Okay, so yeah, a little bit on that. We reflected in our budget. We said, okay, so USA is impacting the health sector in this way, that way, education, you name all the sectors, and therefore we'll have some cushion here, some leverage here, and based on our budget. And so now we're able to give our legislature this amount of money in the benefits, the salaries, and so on. So my point here is, let's engage in real statecraft. What does that mean? When the Canada School of Government is talking about statecraft, they're saying, all right, how do you engage? How do you run your country like a business? Okay, with a benefit mindset. I'm going to change everything around to grow this place, modernize this place, look for the best talents, my human capital, my human capacity. Where are they? I don't care who's my nephew, my brother, my cousin, my girlfriend, my whoever I'm looking for.
The partisan. Don't forget that part.
Exactly.
Partisan.
So basically, no partisan. So basically, they say engage in statecraft, magnify your the way you govern. In other words, the magnification, magnification is let's enlarging the pile, as opposed to thinking the thing is strong. We have to look for saving here and there. Why isn't our budget $5 billion? Why isn't our budget so ambitious that we're engaging in massive capital and social investment in our country? It's not just noise. This is something that's very possible. Yes, let's cut down corruption and waste and spillage and all that, but let's think bigger, let's be ambitious, and let's grow the country.
Thank you. Thank you. What I got up for Amen here is that, look, what is this alarm all about? The people cutting some program here and there. They were not giving so much budgetary support from us anyway. All right. They were just bringing the money through back door. I mean, you are responsible to fund your own government in the first place. These people just bringing happy end that actually bringing to you. They were eating the money. This is their program for their own benefit, the way I understand it. So he doesn't see the need for this kind of alarm. Our budget is still the same. But what I want to say now, gentlemen, for us to close on the topic is, and Tom, correct me here, I don't see that much of economic independence here. It seems to be we are not independent economically. We are not in charge of our own economy to run it. So my next question that all of you is going to close on to go to
but Dennis, I'm not even talking for 1 hour.
I'm answering. Maybe you are on a different show, right?
You see, I'm not even talking for 1 hour.
My apologies. Our new progressive commentator. We are demanding recommendation on austerity measures. Sorry, that's a huge oversight there. So go for it. Austerity measures. What do you have? What do you recommend?
I think I should be more progressive next time to be sure that I'm not overlooked on the show. But
no, don't consider it as overlooking you. It's an oversight. I thought you have spoken.
Okay, so I accept that. Look, listen, I agree with Ahmed that I too do not see this as an emergency. I don't see it right now from all indications from some studies I have done. I do not see us being in a crisis because, first of all, the money that you said is cutting from us is, if I honor the LU Palabra, I would say infinitesimal. At the beginning, I will pronounce it honor LU Palabra is infinitesimal to the problem. It's minute. I will also agree with Mr. Greaves that some things, as they are not what we should be looking at. But having said that, I want to pivot to say that I see us in a typical Liberian way, trying to put the cart before the horse, as we normally do. You run someone to the hospital, the first thing to do the hand drip on the person dies in the next 5 minutes, and then before they diagnose, the person got diabetes. And we do that a lot. That's why we have a lot of false start. I would have thought that by now, with the time we've taken to go down on a lot of these crisis point that we have right now with the whole aid stuff that the aid issue brought up, is to have seen, you know, the meeting of the minds of critical Liberians on a think tank. Now the war is a very small place. If the Senate or the House of Representatives or the central bank, which is not central bank but the Ministry of Finance and Development, which is also in charge of planning, did maybe what we call a virtual meeting of the minds of Liberians across to discuss this issue. All right. But now the idea of Ahmed, the idea of all of us across this table will be in a little chat group. Live for 2 or 3 days discussing this issue and how to bring Liberia up to par. And it will not be here thinking about. Let me mention quickly, because I hear us running with this austerity thing since someone dropped it. In the 2000s, the early 2000s, 2010, around them, the Spain, the Italy, the United Kingdom, the Greece, they all executed austerity measure and negatively impacted the economy. Seriously impacted the economy. It became a crisis in Europe. The same thing with Argentina in 2001. They instituted austerity measure with the push of IMF. It damaged the entire economy. So while austerity measure may be one way to address a fiscal what we call a deficit, is not the only alternative. I think I heard Ahmed mention, what would it cost us to look at our national budget? First of all, and think about the budget envelope. Someone asked here, are we collecting all the revenue we should be accounting for in our country? Can we identify all the revenue stream in our country and make sure every dime is accounted for? For me, in the critical moment of this, that's the excuse I got for the first step. Maritime, LPRC, NPA, all the guys must give LRA direct access to revenue stream into the country, and everybody account for every single dime. Let us know the revenue strength of our country. Let us know that true value, not a negative value, true value. The CTM, the MedTech, those bogus companies that everybody turning their blind eye to because they want to eat from them. This is the time now, so I'll be saying, let's put our foot down and review them and nail them down. Let's get the maximum out of them. This is about time that we should be telling ourselves, on the importation of petroleum, we import, and if the money we spend on importation on petroleum is more than $1 billion every year. Go look it up on central bank reports. We import the expense on import on petroleum in Liberia is more than $1 billion. Why? Because RIA right down there burning so much fuel because they're running generator. All the government agencies burning a lot of fuel because they're running generator also for standby. They get all the fuel slip running all through the country that on the government expense. So the need for fuel is high. When we can begin to say to ourselves, can we? Firestone has the hydro on our river, Farmington River. Firestone producing electricity right to our RIA. Can it be a negotiation with Firestone right now, going forward, that Firestone can bring us manageable 24/7 electricity to cut down on the fuel? I'm not saying that they are not giving us some assistance, but how more of that can we get from them? That's just some of the low hanging fruits, and cut down some of the expenses. And then I want to say this, right, Mr. CA. Mm-hmm. If you turn on your radio today, you're here in Liberia, LPRC, Maritime, NPA, they just started they're giving 700 young people money to go clean the street. Who getting authority to give people money to go clean the street? Is that what we? So how can we be saying that we're looking for money? Then another group of people, the foreign finance minister say priority as a priority. Someone say that thing doesn't even make sense. He not even define what my priority as a priority. How can the finance minister be saying priority as a priority, and then a group of SOEs finding money from where we say we got money and putting 700 people on the streets to clean the city, to clean Monrovia? Is it a bad thing? No, it means we got monies that we're not accounting for. That's what it means. And then I'll close on this because of time. Mr. CA, why austerity is a good idea, but let us think twice. And I go to what Mr. Green said. Some things don't require quick fix. And then you go do the quick fix, you then damage it more. Let me ask us here. When we start cutting people's salaries and cutting people's pays and cutting people's jobs to begin with, what is the multiplying effect on the buying and purchasing power of our general population? How do we impact that? Will we see the Liberian people suffering go up because that family member who lost their job will use it already? All of them gone, almost like close to 3, 4, 5,000 people have lost their job across the country just because of use it going. Now we start slashing people salaries in the country because in majority of this time it is the very people getting minimum are more affected by these cuts because the people making more are not as many as the people making minimum. So we got to take all of these things into consideration so that at the end of the day, I would say in closing, let us first identify all leakages to our revenue income. First thing, then I go by what Ahmed said. Let us identify areas in the budget that is complete waste. $300 million is under public administration. What is under public administration that require $300 million? That entertainment, that party, that travels, that people fast salaries and benefits, scratch cards, home generator for the house, home generator, their own housing allowance that the house they already paying for almost 10 years. We're paying allowance on the house and all of those things. By the time you go to goods and services, they buy one room machine they've been buying last year. The rooming thing in the bought another room this month. The other rooming thing about another room. Gentlemen, the money is in the country. We are not in a state of emergency. We're just having a lack of leadership, and we need to compose ourselves. Don't take rash decisions. Sit around the table, call heads of good heads and level-headed people to make that decision to make the country better.
Thank you. Tom, go ahead, whatever you have to say. I'm going to close on the topic. I want to see, are we having the issue more so because of leadership, or is it the fact that we are not economically independent?
So the whole of Africa is not economically independent. Let's get down off the track. Since we got political independence, Africa is now economically independent. We don't have access to technology to be able to transform these economies that we have. So even when I look at our National Development Plan, AARD, we say we're doing economic transformation. I mean, we're just joking for now. There is no way we are able to transform these economies to leave from low productivity to high productivity if we don't have access to technology. And we don't have that kind of access to technology. So let's just forget about that. One thing I wanted to raise is that Liberia is not the only country in this situation. It's much of the developing world. So this conversation that we are having now is being held at ECOWAS, at AU, and even quite recently, the head of the WTO, the former finance minister of Nigeria, made a similar point that this is a wake-up call to the whole of Africa for everyone to be able to change course. It's like every African country, every country in Asia, the ones that have not developed, our leaders were sleeping at the wheel. So this is where I think, like Ahmed said, this is an opportunity, even though it's painful, but perhaps this is the time for us to be able to change course and move forward. I think many points have been raised. One of the things I want to highlight is that we cannot demonize the word austerity. Because, like I said from the beginning, it's often a response to an economic crisis. And let me disagree. Oh, that this is not a crisis, it shouldn't raise alarm. It is a serious crisis. We might not even reach that 5.8 GDP that was forecast. And it's not only for us, it's across. Let's look forward that even before the next 2-3 months, you might see either the IMF or the World Bank downgrading the forecast for Africa, because this is a huge shock. On the point that Ahmed was making, okay, they gave the money. With time, we have not had a lot of even foreigners working for these USAID projects because Liberians' capacity have been built. So you go to a USAID project, you see maybe a staff of maybe 30 or so more, and you have one chief of party that is a foreigner, or you have one technical advisor that is a foreigner. The rest of them are Liberians that are working there.
Hold on, Tom.
So
Can you please mute? I'm getting feedback. If you're not speaking, please mute so that they can stop the feedback.
So I just wanted to say again that this is a serious macro issue that the government needs to pay attention to. Much of the points that we have made, it falls in the broader category of how austerity measures are taken. Because every time you say in economics, you say austerity, there's already tools that are in the box. When these agencies come to advise you, they put these buckets of tools out. One, stop government. You have to cut some government spending. There are some things you are spending on, you just have to cut on them. Two, tax increases. Like Honorable Grief said, every time you hear austerity, tax increases. Taxes that you were not collecting before, like in Liberia, property taxes that will not be collected because of historical issues with the hot tax. You might see the government running towards that. Reducing wages, cutting wages across generally. And then you have pension reform. Somebody mentioned the issue of pension reform earlier. In many of these cases, when there is a crisis, you go to pension reform, you increase the age for people to retire. If the people are retiring at age maybe 60, you increase it to 65. So you can keep them in the public sector. Because somebody mentioned earlier that we should retire people. When you retire people, then you have to pay their benefits. And you don't have enough money to be able to do that. Then the other one is SOE reform that we've now mentioned. Can we look at some of our SOEs? Look at the housing and banking. There is one institution they call National Housing Bank, right? What do they do? What kind of housing thing we are doing?
National Housing and Savings Bank.
The savings bank. I don't see them do anything. So it's either we go to some of these SOEs, we privatize them, or some of them, like someone said, we merge them. Ever since there has been a consideration to merge FPRC with NOCA, one is doing upstream, the other one is doing downstream. Why can't we merge the two together? But the immediate thing, this has been said, we have to do some things immediately, we have to do some things in the medium term, and we have to do other things in the long term. And the place where this thing is critical is that you have to be cutting down, and you have to then find where you put those savings. Even when you cut down salary, where do you reinvest them to grow the economy so that tomorrow salaries can go up again? But like others are saying, we should not cut salary. If you don't cut now, the people will continue to take their salary, will not grow, will just be in this lack of electricity and all the things that are happening. So in terms of immediate plans, like everyone has said and other people are saying in the public, bring back the budget. Let's look at the budget. Things like non financial expenditure. You plan to buy decks, you plan to buy chair, you plan to buy television. No, let's cut all of that. Where do we put the money? Maybe let's put it into education. The other critical piece the government has to look at is procurement, because almost all of the government money is spent through procurement. With after some time in this country, the current PPCC that we have been giving no objection for single sourcing, 500,000 contract, no objection. Go and do what you want to do. We have to look at that place. And then we look at program budgeting. Can we now start to introduce program budgeting so that we know what the institutions are doing with the money that we are giving to them? The other one I will stop on is the issue of fiscal decentralization. Can we now decide the responsibilities that we are going to transfer to the counties so that they themselves can start to collect their own money and develop their own budgets and deliver their own services, such that everybody in the county does not sit down and wait for things to happen in Morovia. You drive around Morovia, you see all these cars. Grand Jide County school system, Nimba County health system. They are not in the counties, they are all in Morovia running after allotment. Let's fiscally decentralize, send responsibility to them so that they can focus on raising money in their own counties. But this is a complex situation. I don't want anyone to dismiss this.
Well, Koine, you're closing on this subject. You unmute yourself, please.
We are not going to have economic growth without investment. It is trying to get something for nothing. It doesn't work in Liberia. It doesn't work in the U.S. It doesn't work in Asia. In order to get economic growth, you have to invest. Since you're not going to get that investment money from overseas, you may as well get it from Liberia. When you invest in your infrastructure, in education and technology and all of that, then you have an opportunity to grow. So right now, we're not discussing growth. We are talking about how to save money to invest. And if we don't do that, we'll be here for the next 100 years talking about Liberia is poor, Liberia is in need, Liberia need help, and this and that. So you just don't have a choice. And mind you, social crisis. If life continue to deteriorate, there might be violence because people will not always stay stable the same way. So if you don't give them what they want, pretty soon there might be violence across the country for one reason or another. Take that into consideration so you don't have a lot of time to make up your mind on what to do.
Thank you. Dr. Marley.
Yeah, I think we're able to muster our strength to provide a lot of prescription tonight. Which one is workable? I think the government may have a different look at them. But I think one of the major thing I escape in my analysis is there's a need, first of all, for the government to evaluate all these programs on the ground. Which one of them are very, very important for us as a nation and as a society? Evaluate these programs and downsize some of these programs if they're not necessary and include them into the budget, in addition to cutting down on waste and fraud. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bacon.
Yes, sir. I mean, there are a few things we can do to see how best our program can work in our country. But the thing here is we have to be honest with ourselves. There's a lot of way for spending. That's one thing. Let's take in the own. They should be able to generate their own revenue. We didn't need to be spending money on this thing. It's waste of money. LFA should be making their own money. It should not even supposed to be under the government. They should be in general bureau and do their own thing. The LEC, why we putting money into LEC? LEC should be able to make her own money. She should be able to provide her own money. If we look at it again from a different perspective, LEC, most her customer is Liberian government. They are most of the consumer. We are not even pay our debt to LEC, so that number two. Now we come to youth and sports. Why would hire youth and sports hire LFA? These, I mean, some of the organizations, they are overlaps. So these are the time now for us to start looking in the mirror, how best we can do. Money thing, it's a way for spending. Thank you.
All right. J. Victor Namwe, our resident economist proponent here that we don't have economic independence. In fact, the whole of Africa, that is a major factor. Maybe if we're independent, we'll not be crying like baby here, while America is taking some peanuts away from us. So I think going economic independence may do us so much good. But we don't have the money for the investment. Where do we get it from? Maybe we'll stop crying.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with those who say, there's a lot of money to be found within. I think that is true. If you consider, all of this expenditure, going towards travels here, salaries, benefits. But I disagree with those who say this is not an emergency. I really disagree. Look, if you consider the sectors that the USA supports, and like I said, that the U.S. support through other organizations, not just directly. If you consider the magnitude of what this is, you're talking about malaria control, you're talking about school feeding, you're talking about cholera control, you're talking about support to agriculture, it's enormous. And so to say, it's an emergency, I disagree. I disagree. And to say that is also to continue to enable, the laziness of our government to get off its rear end and try to seek independence from foreign aid. Look, if you go down the list, I was just looking at it, it's so enormous, I can't go through it. But if you almost everywhere, every sector of government got some kind of support from the U.S. government. We just sat down here, I think a few months ago, the team in Kaka, the health team, over $800,000 in cash. And that's not no Trump change. That's what got missing in Kaka, the health team. That money came from the U.S. embassy, came from the U.S. government. So when we sit here and say, it's not an emergency, I disagree. I think our government really need to sit seriously and think hard about how to fill the gap that will be created, by this. There are a lot of support. Yes, some of the money does come back to the donors, but a lot of it also get put into our country. They may not even give it to the government directly, but they take care of other responsibilities that will free the government to do other things because of the thing that they're helping the government take care of. So yeah, I would agree that we should sit down and talk about it, but I don't want us to begin to minimize it. I think to do that, we'll continue to send a negative, message to our people that why you don't have to worry about this. It will be okay. I don't think so. I don't see it that way.
And Jeff Victor, I think I agree with you. The reason why the budget for education and agriculture, two critical sectors, by the way, being very negligible, is because our government been looking up to these donor partners.
Absolutely.
They've been chipping in there. Agriculture, for example, they've been pumping a lot of good money there. So I disagree too that this is not an emergency. I think this is an emergency. I think what is the meant to say is that this should not be an emergency if we had our acts together.
Yes, it shouldn't have been.
Is it an emergency? I come into you. I mean, go ahead because your
colleagues. Yeah, well, because we're here on the show and alive for Mr. Nangwe to attribute a certain aspect to what at least I didn't say. No, nobody is underrating the impact of what this is. I personally have former colleagues and friends whose career have been upended, who don't have a job, whose families and children, their education and all of that. We know all of that, and I do take everything into consideration. But to suggest that because the U.S. government has withdrawn its aid from Liberia, and we're saying, look, our government, this is a reflection, an inflection point. It's a big juncture of opportunity where our ways of thinking about governance and running our country should now change so drastically, so that we can begin to be responsible and take responsibility for ourselves. That's what we're saying. I did not speak extensively to the negative impact or say that this is not, let's just minimize this. That's not the intent of what I said here.
Yeah, I didn't really. I didn't say your name. I didn't say your name at all, Philip. I didn't say your name. I just made a comment in response to the other comment.
No, please.
I didn't say your name, but you personalized.
No, but you didn't say my name. But at least it implied that I was one of those who said I do not see this as a sort of
an emergency
crisis to the point where we are panicking and we're talking about austerity measures and so forth and so on. Yes. Austerity measures is when you're cutting things here and there to solve a budget problem. I get that. But I'm saying this is a situation that our government can handle if we do the right things. There are a lot of resources in the country that we can begin to mobilize. And even the way we do budget, the way we govern, I talk about statecraft, it's just the running of the state, the affairs, how you do it. I mean, to what good is it for anyone, for one individual in a poor country like ours to be making nearly $300,000 a year? What are they doing for the country? I mean, seriously,
I agree with you.
Our budget goes to recurrent costs. Where is the investment money in that? How are we going to grow in 20 years, in 30 years? We're going nowhere.
If this is managed properly,
and that is enabled because we have these donors that are propping up, they're doing these different things. Okay, now it gives a cushion to live the corrupt and sort of rent-seeking life that we've been living. Let's continue this business as usual. No, that's unacceptable.
So I agree with you.
We have embassy in every country.
Yeah, gentlemen, we're running out of time. Mr. Namo, let me come to Honorable Graves.
I think this topic is very important. The fire issue, we can talk about it for 5 minutes. I think we should discuss this issue.
Yeah, but
we still have.
Hold on now, Tom. I'll come to you. Let me get to Honorable Graves yet. He has not spoken for the second time. Honorable Graves. Unmute yourself, sir. Thank you.
I think Dr. Clarence made some very salient point, and more so Kane, because I think he understands the economic ramifications of these things, as well as Nangwe. So I'm not calling the term, I didn't call the term austerity measures. I was brought in this show tonight to discuss the topic that was pronounced by the Liberian government of having austerity measures. They were taking the next plan of action. In my sense and understanding when it comes to economics, when you pronounce austerity measures, it means budget deficit. It means economic emergency. It means there is a problem with the country's economic is running to crisis. That's why I don't know the intricacies of Liberian government. I don't work in the government currently to know who's doing what and who's not doing what and why they came up with this. So for the sake of the topic tonight, I'm explaining what austerity measures entails. Now, if we were brought in to talk about reform, accountability, and transformation, of government, that's a different subject. Now, we can be talking about how to reform our agencies, our diplomatic missions around the world, and other ministries, and how to do check and balances, whatever. That's a different subject. But austerity measures mean emergency situation the government is facing right now with government budget deficit. So what can we do in this period? It's a temporary situation. It's not a long-term, it's not a long-standing situation. So how can we do quick fixes, do adjustments? That's what the government is communicating to the public. So another thing we're forgetting is that what the U.S. government has done with their domestic issue and program that affect us. We have a tie. We have foreign service on the front on our foreign front of Liberia. We have the domestic affairs and we have the foreign policy front as well. So what are they doing? Are they being robust? Why the government is looking at all these measures to do quick fixes? What our foreign officers are doing now? That's a question we should be asking. Are they how do have back channel? Like I said last week, it's cataclysmic eruption. It's abrupt and it's very severe. What are they doing to fix this? Are they getting clarity? Because it's temporary. Now, we should have robust, aggressive in the sense of being perceptive, not just being aggressive like that, but all hands on deck. Does that talking because there's a new government, new administration in the United States in America. Diplomatic relations does not go between political parties. What we do, we always renew our ties. We always renew our trust, renew our confidence and assurances with our foreign partners. So whoever come in is our duty to use the opportunity right now to start cementing our relationship so that we can, who knows, the relationship now could be better than the past one where whatever USAID was giving us. We could establish better relationship, better relationship, mutual interest, mutual trust, share values that would be even more beneficial to our country than what we had in the past. So all the two fronts, domestic front, foreign policy front, we should be attacking it aggressively as the government is putting in, and the government has I'll give the government credit. The government has announced to the public that it is taking austerity measure, meaning that is a problem. They hide it from us. We have a shortfall, we have budget deficit, and we're telling you this is a problem, but we're doing adjustments. So they're looking at the fiscal budget, they're making an adjustment, they're taking from here there. All of those long-term fixes come under transformation, reform, and accountability. That's a different topic, and that's a different program of government.
All right, Tom, you will get the final word. You are a resident economist here because this is all about economics. Dr. Clarence Pearson, I want you to speak more to economic independence. I think the lack.
So you go with the proposal that we now go into the fire incident or the fire investigation?
We'll get to the fire incident. That fire incident topic is
5 minutes.
We will get to it after Clarence. Tom,
already point.
Dr. Pearson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just for the benefit of the audience out there. No country in the world is economically independent. All right, that is a fact, because the definition for economic independence is that you do everything by yourself. You have no reliance on any other country but yourself, and that goes for the reason why that is we say that is that the countries depend on global trade. It's an interdependence situation. Because of resource limitation, countries may rely on other countries for certain things that they don't have. For their own economy to be strengthened for some reason. We got financial and investment ties across different countries. Those are all forms of independence. Even technology and innovation dependence. Even in America, there are certain things we wanted for certain things to work, like certain chips and things got to come from out of Japan, or it got to come from China, or the same thing with China. Certain things got to come from here before it can be used on that side to boost whatever they want to do. So no country is economically independent. However,
100%,
yes,
right?
However, they will say that some countries are economically self-sufficient, meaning they rely on themselves more than rely on the outsiders. All right, so that the U.S. and other countries, they rely on themselves more than rely on the outside. So let me say this: Liberia does not have an emergency because USA took away $50-something million from us. The money the guys steal in the legislature is more than $100 million every year. The money the guys steal in the country is more than $100 million every year. Now, let me say this: I will land by saying I don't support increment in taxes, and I got reason why I say I don't support increment in taxes at this point. The first thing is that the economic hardship in our countries is very high. We are the 8th poorest country in the world. It's like we got the malnourished cow, and then we still want milk it. In business economics, taxes do not. The tax burden does not rest on the investor. The tax burden rests on the consumer. No matter how much tax you put on the investor, it goes back to the consumer. And let me say this: even if we say, okay, the horse tax, like maybe Thomas mentioned, no disrespect to Thomas, but Thomas mentioned horse tax or land tax, which means I'm not going pay anything. They're coming directly to my pocket because I have my horse or I have my land. If I'm not earning a living wage and you taxing me for my poor little house I already built, how you expecting to even eat? How you expecting to send my children to school? How you expecting to go to hospital? So you're suffering the masses even more. I don't think that's the first step to our problem. I also have a serious problem when I heard the guys and said the president passed a executive order, and instead of the 10% on travel or cost, they said a flat rate. It is at this time you need a progressive tax system, meaning a 10% across travel cost. The government gets more on each travel cost based upon the value of the travel cost. If you put a flat rate, the poor man, Flomo, and the rich man, Mamadi, will be paying the same price for the same plane ticket that they're traveling out of the country or traveling in the country. That's not a sensible taxation strategy for a poor country like Liberia. So let me make myself clear for the listening audience. If I bought a plane ticket for $6,000 and the taxable amount on that plane ticket is $500, and I pay 10% on that $500, maybe it's $5, right? If Anthony CA comes and buy a plane ticket for maybe maybe because you're going Red Ghana, your plane ticket is $500. The taxable amount on that $500 for the plane ticket maybe is around $125. If the guy who paying the $500, who getting the $500 value, and I who getting the $150 value, we paying the same tax, it hurts us economically. So I don't know how the guys came up with that idea. I don't know who told the president to sign that thing. And what I think I heard was this. I'm going to say them because someone mentioned taxes, and no disrespect to him, but I think this particular instance, we're not helping ourselves. So think about this, right? If you say collecting the 10% is a problem, what make you think if you go and collect $50 across the board will still not be a problem if the collection is a problem? The problem is the collection. It's not the percent or the fiscal dollar. It's the collection. So are you saying if you remove the word 10%, so it will come from out of the computer, it will not be calculated in the transaction or online? So maybe the mail say, okay, they take a job board, the flat rate at $10, then they put the $10 aside, fiscal cash so we can see it, so we say it's safe. That doesn't make no sense to me. It doesn't. Either we having a non-compliance with the collection of the 10%, or we're having some technical issue with the collection of the 10%, then we fix the collection issue. Don't deprive of the amount. And I close to say, Dennis on the topic. Listen, let us seize all the leakages in revenue. That's the only thing I can think about right now. I will hit our budget over $1 billion and $1 billion plus. Close every loophole on revenue income. Identify every revenue stream in the country and close it up through LRA. Second, kill all the waste in the budget.
Thank you.
And invest, like the Freeman say, kill the waste and invest it in the country. Infrastructure development, agriculture. Let it put money in the poor pocket because job availability is available for the people. Once they get the job and the infrastructure is going on, we can feed ourselves. People, we'll be solving problems. We won't be happy. This is not an emergency. It is not.
Thank you. And my recommendation is let government collect all of its taxes using the mobile money system directly into a account. We will hit $1 billion plus immediately.
Yeah.
No one should go to the and put money in your hand. If you have to pay the money, even if you not get mobile money, you not get phone, go to the mobile money booth, give the money to the mobile money booth man, pay the $5 extra on it for that man. That man made the payment for you. It goes to government account. We will raise that. Tom, our resident economist, you get a final word on this subject.
Yeah, so like I said, this has to be a combination of measures.
Mm-hmm.
In taxation, there is something we call ability to pay. So it doesn't mean when they say people should pay taxes, you are going to go to the village in Sando County. That man that doesn't have any income, you go and tax him. No, that's not the way it works. It goes with ability to pay. Property taxes, for instance, housing is one way people can demonstrate wealth. This is why a rich man's house is often more valued than a poor man's house. So when they say you're going to tax properties, you're not going to go tax that zing round that is on the old when the people don't even have food to eat. So basically what will be happening is those who have the ability to pay, can they pay a little more so that we can transfer it? Because right now we are saying, for instance, like Mr. Nangwe said, the school feeding program that USAID was supporting has gone off. So there are many kids that used to go to school simply because there was that school meal. When they go, they will eat 1 time, 2 times a day, and they will continue to be in school. Are we going to let them to fall out of school? Or are we going to ask the people who have the ability to pay a little more, maybe $5 additional, so that we can keep those kids in school because they are our future workforce? So this is why it has to be a measure of tax issue. And this resistance on the show is also even in the legislature. The senators are saying we can do anything, but we cannot increase taxes. So the first thing we have to do is all of the other tax bases that we have, are we extracting enough from them? If they are all not sufficient, then maybe we look at some other taxes that are not performing, right? So it has to be a mix of these measures. And I wanted to come back to the point Ahmed was making, which is very important. We cannot separate governance reform from our response to this issue. They have to be together. Because even when we are going to ask people to pay additional taxes, or we are going to ask people to just pay taxes that they were not paying before, which are on the books, the question they will be asking is, all of the taxes that we have paid before, what have you done with it? So the government has to improve transparency, it has to improve accountability, it has to increase digitization, like you said, Anthony. Can we digitize our tax processes? Can we even digitize service delivery? So that people can be a little bit satisfied to see that the resources they are giving to the government is going back to them. That's the only way they can be able to pay taxes. Because right now, what is going to happen is the government is going to focus now on domestic resource mobilization. How can we collect money? And if you force the citizens who are already dissatisfied, or Mr. Freeman already said it, there's going to be resistance, like we saw in Kenya quite recently when they had this huge tax reform to be able to reduce their debt that they are paying. So it has to be a combination of governance reform, public sector reform, institutional reform, transparency, inclusiveness, participation, more decentralization, so that everybody can feel a part of this to move forward. And the sacrifice should not be on one end. If the school meals are cut off, the children are going to school hungry, people in the public sector that are making higher wages should also be able to sacrifice maybe 200 or 300 out from their wages. But what I will end on is that I don't think the current capacity of the government has the bandwidth to be able to address this issue. The government needs to go out there, look for people who have the skills, people who have been left, who are no longer working in USAID, people who have worked for 20, 30 years, who know how to do programming, who know how to manage programs and budgets and all of that. They need to bring them on, maybe under a short-term mechanism to be able to support the government, because we have a stream of things that we need to do. We're talking about reviewing the concessions. We need a team of people to look at that. We are talking about reforming the public sector. We need a team of people to look at that. So I think the government needs to check around, get people who can be able to support the government so that we don't just stop on the platform, but we can do the actual work to be able to address the short-term impact of this, and then laid a real foundation for the statecraft that Ahmed was talking about, that he got from Harvard. Thank you very much.
On that note, we'll take a short break and we will come back with our next topic. Stay tuned, folks.
Our country, sweet Mandela, our country, that God gave us this country. That God gave us this country. We are calling on everyone here to come and pray for this country. God gave us this country.
Indeed, fellow Liberians, you know it. Comrade, God gave us this country, and we have a responsibility. Our next topic on the menu: U.S. fire investigators to assist with the Capitol fire. Some fire experts, some of them retired, have gone to Liberia, invited by the Liberian government to investigate the Capitol fire. Though the government has done an investigation, found some individuals guilty, they are in jail, but the government is saying, we're bringing an expert. This was advised from the get-go. It never happened. The government is doing it now. I have a few questions. Number one, what is the goal of inviting fire experts after convicting suspects who are now serving jail term? Number two, is it still necessary at this time to invite fire experts to investigate when we already done an investigation? Number three, where will the foreign investigators start from, and what would they be investigating? The investigation that was done by the government? Is that what they will be investigating? Number four, will the new investigators' report make any difference, no matter who it finds responsible or who it exonerates? And number five, what will happen for those convicted if the expert report rules out arson as the cause of the fire? We have an investigator in our midst here. He's Colonel Freeman. He can ask some questions too for us to juice this discussion up. Colonel, those are my questions. I don't want to ask them one by one because of time. So any of you can get to, you can go with it. So let me start with you.
Okay, so the first thing to say is, it's a continuation of the dependency syndrome that a country 176-year-old, maybe some fire incident or a criminal act or something occurs in your country, and you are not able to investigate, you have to go abroad. Having said that, it also shows the problem with our police and prosecution services, because you are supposed to gather all of the evidence prior to going to court. And I would assume that once you do the indictment and you do the commencement of the prosecution, it means that you have gathered the evidence. So it makes no sense whatsoever. In fact, this is my first time seeing something like this, where a trial is ongoing and people are investigating the alleged crime, that while the trial is ongoing, what will you do with the evidence? Because the evidence is supposed to be used in court, but the trial is now ongoing. But it shows to you that our police services, they are biased, they are unprofessional. After 177 years, it shows to you that our prosecution, they take instruction from political leaders, because you remember when the fighting started, Baka said that it was certain people who burned down the property without any evidence. And so it's not surprising that the police had to manufacture their evidence to suit the president's statement. So it's a problem.
What the president said, I will come close to his exact words. He said this was an act of hooliganism.
What does it mean? It means somebody did it purposely, intentionally. Factoring out error, factoring out electrical problem, factoring out lightning, factoring out anything. Right? That's what he's saying. Somebody did it intentionally without any evidence. The president is not supposed to speak without evidence. At the level of the presidency, when you speak, you should be backed by evidence. So now they are in court and they are still looking for evidence. It's almost the same thing. I think the Sherman case where they took them to court and then they went to UK to look for evidence and all of that. We have this consistent pattern of unprofessionalism, bias by the police and the prosecution because they are taking instructions from the politicians. So what is going to happen at trial is a potential for there to be a mistrial, for example, because if you get at an advanced stage and there is a significant happening in the evidence, and that can be brought to court, and there can be the trial can be declared either a mistrial or it can be dismissed at that stage, or the defendant can be. And once the court has heard the evidence, for example, if the evidence is admitted in court, it's not possible for you to bring it back. So now, even if the letter of who did it and the specific individual who did it, and they are not the people on trial, it becomes a problem. So we just have a problem, and unless that's what we need. Real structural reforms, okay? Not chipping around the corner, not fanning around. Pure structural reform. If we don't get it, we will be dependent, poor, destitute for the next 100 years.
Dr. Marley, is it necessary at this time to have another set of investigators to investigate what's being investigated already at this time?
Well, first I said no, but this begs the question, why are we bringing in third party at this time? Did we investigate the investigators? What the government intend to achieve from the exercise? So there are so many questions out there than answer.
So if this is meant to investigate the investigators, don't you think that is a good thing? Maybe the investigators did not do a good job. Maybe the experts are coming to investigate the investigators who did the first investigation.
Okay, then this takes me back to Freeman's point. The case is already in court, it's being litigated. So I think the government should have waited after the case is concluded and they found new evidences, then they can bring in third party. But I really don't see the rationale why the third party is really coming in. Maybe the sightseeing or what? I don't know.
Maybe the government is trying to bring fairness to the process. So they bring in a neutral party because there are others who see the government as not being fair. You listen to Kanye when the president came, when he spoke, he said, "Look, this is act of hooliganism." All right. And he having to be the head of government, speaking in that way, he commissioned an investigation, and the investigation is saying, well, these are the doers. So the president said, well, maybe the people see the investigation as something because I commissioned it that people trying to follow what I said. They don't want the investigation to prove me otherwise, that there was a doing of individuals, not any fire, not electrical shock whatsoever. So he bringing the investigators to establish the fire. I think it is fair, isn't it? Bringing fairness to the process.
No, I don't.
Then terminate the case. Terminate the case.
Yeah, I think what I see here is that in the first place, I don't have all the facts, but I think evidence has been tampered with in the first place. You had a police guy in this building, all right, and the fire came up. Where were they? So when I talk about investigating the investigators, I want for this third party to wait. In the first place, we should ask ourselves, why is it that this whole exercise did not start with third party involvement? Why? And why at this time?
So you are saying at this time it's not necessary. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Maybe it's for sightseeing. It's not necessary at all.
All right. Mr. Bakan.
Yes, sir.
So this late in the game with this investigation, now we're bringing the experts. Are the experts so expert that whether or not the crime scene have been tampered with, they will be able to give us the result that is supposed to give us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me.
You see, let us not start demonizing our law enforcement. I know that they have their own shortcoming, but they are professional people. Now all of them are involved in criminal activities. Let's put it to a historical perspective. 1968, when the Liberian National Police were formed, it was somebody from Missouri who was the first county called Lennon. He was the first person that told me abroad to establish our Liberian National Police. So it's not the first time for people to come from abroad to come and assist us to establish our investigation. That's number one. Number two, 1982, 83. Anybody probably you could be. 1982 or 83. The Ministry of Finance got burned. Okay? And there were experts that came to assist us in our investigation. I'm going to admit, I was a young investigator, after investigation at that time, maybe 19, 20 years old. I took part in that investigation. I can still relate to that investigation. I can still recite it. It's still there, the evidence. So evidence, you can destroy it, but there's a way we can find it. So even if it takes 10 years, you tamper with the evidence will still be recovered. So even if they say, okay, let me come to my brother from possession or his ideas. The investigation is still going, it's a continuation. Even if a court is still in session, it is a new discovery. They can still go to the judge. Yeah, we still have new discovery. So it doesn't mean that because they are in court right now and they are doing the investigation, so the case is completely sealed. No, it can be 10 years, 15 years. If there's a case, if somebody convicted the wrong way, and they found a new discovery, they can still go to the judge and say, yes, this is what it is. That's what the criminal justice system is all about. So investigation is a continuation. People have died 10, 15, 20 years, or 10 years, or 20 years. And they can still go back and say, yeah, these are, especially when it comes to arson. Where there's combustible gasoline, there's nothing you can do a tamper with it. Because I study arson, I know what it is to do an arson investigation. So anybody who try to destroy the evidence, no, we'll still find you and you will be prosecuted. But bringing experts into the country, yeah, of course we have brought a lot of experts in our investigation. That's what I mean. There's more to say onto the issue, but there's no way to say yes because the case is before the judge now. So there's no way we can bring another witness. There's another witness can still come in. It doesn't mean because they say the case is on before the judge, and for that reason we cannot bring in another witness. Or we
so what about the people who are being prosecuted? What evidence the evidence produces result that exonerate them? What are you going to do about them?
Yeah, sir, there are people who have been convicted in this country and they stay 25, 30 years and they exonerate them and say DNA have proved them they are not guilty and government made restitution. So I mean it's not something new today and say because we are in Liberia.
I was just wondering, Jared. Thank you for the clarification, bro. I just wonder what are the basis on which these people have been prosecuted?
Like I said,
Mr. Number, can you answer that question?
Let me just say something quick. In the law, we say you take your best evidence to court, and no evidence is sufficient. We presupposes the existence of a better evidence. So if you believe that the evidence was not good enough, why go to court?
Exactly.
It's being unprofessional.
No, Mr. Freeman.
You wait, because this is a legal matter. You wait.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are times in court when you file your case and you submit your evidence and you are cross-examined, you close. When you close, you can't come back.
That's it.
In that particular case, when you close, you're not coming back.
Mr. Freeman,
when you submit evidence and you're cross-examined,
one at a time.
That was a technical issue. Let me explain it.
No,
when you submit your evidence,
one at a time.
You submit your evidence and you are cross-examined, and then you close your case, you cannot come back with another evidence. No, that case has to end.
Thank you.
It's a legal matter that is start to asking, so we need to listen to the asking specialist.
Yeah.
Let me say this. Let me say this because it doesn't mean the case have been closed But if there's another witness, you know and I know. If there's another witness, then say there's another discovery. Besides, even though let's say Mr. A has been prosecuted and he's guilty or he's not guilty, if there's a new discovery, yeah, you can stay after the judge and say we have a new discovery in the country. You know and I know.
Mr. Freeman, that is accurate. When there's a new discovery, you can
No, but I'm not saying that it's not you. I'm saying when you close the submission of your evidence, then you cannot add another evidence, right?
We are still the investigation is still continuation, even though there's a prosecution going on. It doesn't.
Do you know what stage the trial is at now as we speak? Do you know what stage it's at?
Gentlemen, let leave it there for now. Let me get to the other panelists. Honorable Graves, I want to hear from you too. So there are individuals found guilty as we speak.
They're not being found guilty here. They were indicted.
They were indicted. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate that.
Then you told me they got to go for the arrangement before the judge. You know whether they guilty or not. Anyway, so let's go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
So I want to know, these investigators, whatever report that they come up with, because the first report from the Liberia National Police and the Liberia National Service is saying these are the individuals who we believe have carried on this act. If the new investigators now carry on their investigation and report to say, look, this was not arson, this was completely electrical shock, what happens to the individuals who are being accused, who are being persecuted as we speak?
Oh, well, if the evidence proved that, then the worker being acquitted. In my experience, I don't know how this whole hit case was handled. But I remember too.
With the government paid damages to these individuals for defamation or something like that.
There are many pathways in the legal system that they could seek retribution or accountability. So that there are many leeways they could use legally on our system. But I will speak from my own experience. I remember in 2006, it was July 26th event at the Executive Mansion when the office of the president and other parts got into a blaze of fire, real fire.
Thank you for bringing it back. Thank you.
Say again?
And I said thank you for bringing it back. Yeah, I wanted.
Okay. Yeah. So when that happened, I was in the mansion. I was in the office. I was working in the office of the president at the time, President Sirleaf, former President Sirleaf. So what we did was that, and no country requesting experts and specialists in forensic investigation in this arson case is make you a poor country or your country to be condescended like we talk about ourselves. No, we just didn't have the logistics, we didn't have the tools, we didn't have the training, and to use to carry on the forensic work. What we did that we reserved the crime scene, the whole scene of the executive mansion. It was barricaded physically. It was secure. There was certain personnel allowed in and out, and even if you allow your wore protective gears so that you do not destroy any evidence or you do not get into areas, and it was limited. So to protect to not contaminate the crime scene and protect the integrity of it, we see that. And what did the government do at the time? The administration went and formed this group with the South African government, and they send the expert. They send the forensic team to come and do the investigation. So we begin with that now. But I don't know in other ways how they did it this time. If the crime scene is still protected, it's still secure, if the integrity of it is still maintained. But like Asna said, well, there's no way they can damage. When it comes to arson findings or whatever, they will still manage to find it. But it just looked to me the last thing to do. So we did it the other way around. We did that. They came in, the team did a forensic. Then NSA took on the investigation. I mean, I was investigated as well because I was in the building at the time. So all that process went on before charges started being pressed and people started being indicted and all that took place. So this way, I don't know how they're doing it this time. I'm not familiar with the case, but I can tell you, it still doesn't preclude evidence still coming up because the case is still ongoing. It's not ended. It has not been ended yet. It's not finished. Not complete. So as the case is ongoing, there could be new development, new findings. There could be people who have been indicted right now and talking and say, oh, I want to confess that certain things I did, and so individuals were involved, and this is what we did, and what have you. So evidence being produced coming along the way because nobody has been indicted yet. Nobody has been convicted yet of any crime. So the process is on. So it makes sense. But we cannot only depend on the United States government. We know the government is doing that, but now we know that there are a lot of things happening here. They're carrying a lot of transformation and reform. There are many avenues. There are many friends we have. Like we use South Africa for the executive mansion. We use other experts, other specialists in other areas to help our investigations. But it's very important to have the real people doing the real work, that forensic investigation to establish exactly what happened. And then for us, we're lucky. It was electrical situation after they did their investigation. So, I mean, that's how I see it.
Thank you. And Amen. The invitation to these fire experts at this time, do you find that necessary, and what difference they're going to make at this point?
Yeah, I do find it necessary, like Mr. Greaves and Mr. Bacon have said. There's nothing wrong with inviting specialists and experts, particularly on the forensic side. And Mr. Freeman knows. I agree. First of all, Mr. Freeman, to an extent, that if a trial is already undergoing, and if these individuals who have been accused have good defense lawyers, they could try to, on technical basis, try to make some argument for dismissal and so on. However, somebody can be searched based on probable cause. People, investigators go to judge, get warrant, search their homes, and try to investigate them based on probable cause. So reason to believe that this individual is involved, might have been involved somewhat. We do not have the conclusive evidence, but we do have enough, sufficient to call them or to recommend them to indict them, right? And so that's why these individuals have been held. However, as the trial is in its preliminary stages, as I understand it, I've not been following too closely. I'm one who's for really trying to get to the bottom of what happened to the Capitol building. I'm on the side of also believing that this was an arsenic attack on the Capitol building. I do not have the full evidence, but given the circumstances, the political circumstances that was ongoing at the time, it's too sort of circumstantial, yes, but yeah, there's more that meets the eye. So yes, bring people in. Okay, oh, I see now. So okay, then it's not very preliminary. It's really the trial is in full swing. It looks like, but still, you can have confirmatory evidence. People can go and investigate and say, "Look, there's a new evidence there," and they want to introduce it to discover and whatever. The judge can decide that. But on the political side, there's legal side, but there's also the political side of this. Yes, the political side may have spoken too early, or perhaps influence the preliminary in law enforcement investigation to a certain extent that has created confidence or crisis for this investigation. So it makes it necessary even to bring in a neutral outside expert who specialize in this kind of thing. Hopefully the crime scene, it still has its integrity, and there's they can find something that will help us to conclusively understand as to what happened to the Capitol building. Now, when and if that happens, then the legal people will handle the legal side of it, and then the political people will handle the political side of it. But I do believe that something did happen. I do not have, again, conclusive evidence, so that just based on the circumstances. And I will be very happy to see if we can have convincing evidence to conclusively show and reconstruct to bring us to when it burned and what happened and all of that, so that we know who did it, if someone indeed did it, or if it was some electrical and other type of non-human factors that led to the burning of the Capitol building.
And do you think inviting the expert at this time is timely? I know you say it's necessary, but is it timely?
Timely, look, timeliness is subjective, right? I mean, you're asking, who knows, why now, why not in the beginning, why, maybe it took time to get these people to find them and all of that. I am not privy to that information, so I can't speak to the timeliness. But I'm just saying it's necessary to have neutral experts who have training and hopefully resources and the expertise to come and really reconstruct everything and help us, help us understand what happened, so that we can conclusively know. And if there's new evidence that exonerate individuals who have been accused, then of course that's a legal matter, and they will deal with that. They and their lawyers and the judge will deal with that. Okay. It will bring into all kinds of tactical questions on both sides as to how to handle that moving forward. Again, some evidence can be confirmatory. You have preliminary investigation, you have some kind of evidence that's sufficient enough to take the case to court. There's an indictment, there's a denial, there's a trial, and then some additional investigation is warranted. We do not know if that additional investigation was warranted, whether or not it was on the part of law enforcement that may not have done something, overlooked something. It could even be that lawyers have requested additional investigation based on their own fact findings and so on. So there's just a lot that we do not know. We have to wait and see.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Dr. Pearson, when I read the article and read the profile of these fire experts who are being invited, they are all more like retired. I don't know how long each of them been retired for. One may argue that this is the best the government can do in terms of inviting experts. At my job, even if I took 1 month leave, when I return, I said, "My man, go for training. You're too rough. The thing not being in your head that much, so go for training." Here we didn't. We're playing. One single mistake, it will cost the airlines so much damage that we can't even afford. These are the best we can get in your judgment. And what do you make of the whole invitation of an expert at this time during the investigation?
Thank you, Mr. C. I think there are a few things I would like to lift.
Please.
There are a couple of different difference between what happened at the executive mansion and the Capitol building, how we dealt with it. Let's take, for instance, the politicization of the Capitol fire is not the same as the executive mansion at the time. With the executive mansion, there was not as much political tension that we saw in the Capitol building, like it is now. And another thing I don't see, Mr. C, I don't see the priority, the level of priority or importance that we attached to that sentimental building, that building of vast importance to us, just from the mere fact that it's one of our historic sites standing up there. If that property got burned, and we thought that bringing in expert assistants who have been an important part of the process, that should have been one of the first things we would do. And I know somebody will want to run and say, "Oh, we don't have the money," but yeah, between the time the Capitol got burned and now, the money we're talking about, people who bought cars in government, it can quadruple what we pay those guys in compensation, or just to acknowledge them for what they'll be doing, even if it's voluntary. All right. So I don't think we put a lot of value on it. Then when it comes to the experts that I saw and read, I know for a fact that there's a difference between fire chief and fire investigators. And when I read the profile, they are all former fire chiefs. They are not fire investigators. In developed world like the Americas, even the fire chief cannot go to court and give testimony as an expert on a fire that happened in a building that he went to court to put out the fire. Yeah, he can say what he saw when he went there and maybe give answer to maybe other issues, but he cannot go to determine what the fire and the detail and the technicality of the fire, because the first thing they will ask him, if you look at most of our trials on television, they'll ask you, what is the level of expertise in this area? How much training have you had in this area? How many times have you testified to stuff like this before? How many experience in terms of investigation of a fire have you carried out before? So they will look at all of those things. When they come and ask you, you can't answer any of those things, like you lose relevance to the defense lawyer, right? And then they just rule you out as being not a value to the witness stand. Another thing I will be concerned about here, Mr. Dennis, is the fact that, you know, yeah.
I think I'm going to buy myself some glasses here, because you have glasses, then I have glasses. I don't have glasses, so you always mistaking me for Dennis. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. C. But the thing here, another thing I wanted to look at quickly. Listen, let be frank here, right? So the Capitol building was under the jurisdiction of the Liberia National Police, right? The National Police have taken seize of the entire property. They have brutalized citizens from on that property. They have brutalized lawmakers from on that property. That night that the building got burned was in the protection of the National Police. All right, and maybe Capitol security. I think they said they even drove the Capitol security off of that building. So now, then we find a situation where the police are already started to take sides with a political crisis, with one group that are agitating for power in the House. So the police is defending one side of the political divide, barricading doors, beating on opposition lawmakers in case of that crisis, defending people who discussing $1 million budget in the back of the door. We all know what happens when it comes to budget discussion. At the same time, the Capitol gets burned. One who have thought that the police will recuse himself of the process of investigation, immediately put money into expert opinion to come and provide some expert services to come and provide the investigation we need for that for some sense of transparency and neutrality. No, we did not see that. What we saw is that the police initially went after one side of the political divide that was not the political divide that they have been protecting all along the crisis. And to even make matter worse, not only that they did that, we saw the police go through a preliminary investigation, Mr. C, that did not account for the fact that they are a party to the crisis as it stands, technically speaking. So I don't think that crime scene is credible, and I would say that for a fact, because I saw journalists then walking all in a fireplace after the fire and they're taking pictures, videotaping. I saw police people walking all in Monatu trying to get the cameraman out of there. I saw lawmakers then going inside to go see how the place looking. Some people went to extract property that did not get burned in other section of the building that you have to pass through that same section that got burned. And I mean, the integrity of the site. And besides that, the conflicting party in that building will not want that crisis to stick on any one of them. So anyone can disturb evidence in there to make their case that the problem came from another side. And they're still using the place as we speak. The place is still vulnerable as we speak. So I think there's so much that is going on now. I know we all argue that we should have a situation where we should have experts, but the timing of these experts are not going to help the situation. It's going to exacerbate the situation. All right, because our fire chief, I already said, the fire incident is as a result of arson because the smoke was black. You know, the smoke coming from on top of the building was too black, so it suggests that it was arson. However, in Liberia over the past 12 months, Dennis, we have an average of 3 fires a month in Liberia. And besides that, all of those fires that have happened in Liberia, we have had high-profile fire from the party chairman of the ruling party, fire that gutted the house of the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the country, fire that gutted one of the prolific senator in Liberia there, Sir Joseph. No fire investigation has shown that our fire service has the potential to give us investigative finding as to what are causing those fires. So what credibility did the initial investigation provide for that case to declare arson? Is a problem. Are they going to bring people in who they're favorable to or favorable to them, and now they're going to just pin the crime on those who are already suspected? That's another issue. So there will be so much to argue about, and I think it's going to be a whole in Liberia chicken and egg situation.
And Tom, I go back to the point again. These investigators they've invited, these people, they are retired. They don't have anything much to do. And so Usually in the U.S., when people retire, if they don't have a business they're running, they are just traveling all over the place, trying to chill. And so those were the individuals the government fund. You think these are the right kind of experts that are needed for the situation that is this contentious?
So there are a couple of things to consider here. That's a good observation. But first, the point is to say they are all fire chiefs. What if the person was a fire investigator before they got promoted and then they retire as a fire chief? So
No,
there
we're
will
just
be
looking at the
That's a
profile of
title, not a
everyone that's
profession.
Hey,
I was about to say that, Thomas.
please protect Tom, please. Spare the time, please.
yeah.
Thomas,
Because
just the profile that have been provided so far.
hey, my man, wait now. Let me talk. Normally, people give you title that you retire with, right?
That is
These
true.
people, they couldn't take them from anywhere that they don't know anything about fire investigation. Then they made them fire chief. They must have grown through the ranks and file of the institutions, and they got to that level and they retire with it. On your issue of bringing people who are retired, so you can look at it from different perspectives. Is it that their cost is lower? In some instances, when people are retired, so they are not actively in the service, you are able to get them on lower, maybe wages to be able to come to do for them to do the work for you. Maybe that could be the consideration. That's why they went for these retired people. In other instances, when people are retired, the cost for getting them increases because they have more years of experience. They might have had 30 years of experience, 45 years of experience. So even their daily rates, when you come to hiring consultants, the older the consultant is, the more money you are going to pay for him. But I'm not very sure who's paying the cost because we have this relationship. I know the former city mayor of, I think, Brooklyn has this relationship with Monrovia. He tries to bring the government of Liberia close to Minnesota. I don't know if the state of Minnesota is the one paying for these people to come, or is the government of Liberia paying for them to come? So I don't think we should just look at their profile as retirees to be able to judge them that they wouldn't do a good job. But if I could comment on the issue of them coming in, I think we really need to drill down to the bottom of this issue because it's almost becoming like phone, right? A few times, Len Eugene number was interviewed. I think when they invited two of the CDC representatives, and when they interviewed about the issue, he said they should go and let them go after the real people that burned the Capitol. So there's this kind of allegation. One group is saying it was the other guys that actually burned the Capitol, when the other group is saying it was the other team that burned the Capitol. And we all know the crisis that they have been going through. So we really need to drill down to find out who actually burned the Capitol because it have implication on our budget. Remember, they have put money in there to be able to start doing some work on the Capitol. So it has a public finance angle to it. There were people in the public who were saying if the guys in the house actually burned the Capitol, they should fund the renovation of the Capitol. So if we drill down to the bottom of it and see who did it, then we can be able to find a way to resolve this issue. But this attack on the symbol of democracy in the country, this was huge. So if the police don't have the capacity to lead us to the end of it, it can be at any stage. I think asking for additional help to be able to get us across is very important. Because if you cannot address the burning of the Capitol, then why else can people do that? You really take action against them in this country.
Well, you can take action against individual when they don't declare their asset. It's not telling them resign. I mean, you are suspended, and then they say, "Okay, you have my asset," and they go back to work. Well, let me leave that. To participate, call 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-403 #. The number is posted in both Facebook and YouTube live feed there, and you will have the chance to participate. J. Victor Number, let us hear your take. We're talking fire investigation. The symbol of our democracy, or one of our symbols of democracy. Some people say was burned down by some people they believe who did so.
Yeah, so you bring me in after all the wise people have spoken. So I don't know if I can
I know how clever and smart you are.
But listen, thank you very much. I
Go
like to
ahead.
agree with Mr. Sully and also I believe Thomas on the timing. So yeah, maybe the request was put in, it took time to process. But then the question is, if you knew all of this was going on, why could you just wait for these people? What is this whole thing of parading people, taking them to court, putting them in handcuffs and all of that? What was that about? Because that process costs money. They're paying for the people locally to do the investigation. They're going to pay these people they are bringing internationally to pay the same waste we're talking about here. This is what we're witnessing. But I think the problem that the investigators of this fire have is that they have a solution in hand and they are looking for a process to put it through so that they can clean it up. These people are retired people. They're not state actors. Usually you bring in state actors because they have resources. These people are retired. What are they coming with? What are they coming to do? They're retired people. These are private people. But they're bringing them because in Liberia, we believe anything the white man does is unquestionable. So they're bringing them to varnish whatever they have, make it look clean, and then they push it out there, and our people accept it. Or the web working, this is what they found. So the people they're going to Liberia to get paid. They're retirees who are going to Liberia to get paid. That's what it is. They're not going to add anything to what the people already have in their pocket. They have the solution in pocket. They're just looking for a way to put it out. That's all. That's all I got to say about that.
All right.
And then there is no use to the case. There's no use because, like I was saying, at this point, if you feel your evidence is insufficient, you need to withdraw it. We call it withdrawal without prejudice. Withdraw without prejudice, pass your case up, get the evidence, and go back. But do not think that you will go to court, enter your evidence gets cross-examined. Then once that cross-examination is passed, you cannot come back. So I know people express their opinion, but let me just give you what the law is. If you put the evidence into court and it is cross-examined, that evidence can no longer come back.
Thank you. Well, let's go to the phone line. And,
can I say something before we go to the phone line, please? 1 second.
Okay, Mr. Bacon, go ahead.
You see, somebody who studied Arsenal, who has spent most of my time in investigation. I mean, he's a lawyer, that's fine. But we all have different view. But here's the thing. The discovery process is always the same. First of all, let's look at the investigation. The integrity of the investigation. Let's look at it for 1 fact. First of all, we got to look at the architect of the building. That's one thing when you do the investigation. How long that building been around? How long? The second thing was they were doing a renovation.
But I'm what person we're talking about now?
Yeah, but
investigation.
Sir, when you're speaking, can you give me the time?
Just an injection.
No, but I've been giving the courtesy as well.
Let me finish.
You're speaking as a professional person. I'm also speaking as a professional individual. So that's what it is. So give me that courtesy. Okay? We got to look at the architect of the instruction of that building. We got to look at the electrical issue of it. How long that electrical or who are doing it. So whatever we're temporary, these are all the part of the investigation. If there's a new discovery, we're going to go through that process. I just want to make it clear. Well, I think my brothers talk about the smoke. Yeah, as an investigator, you can tell. I can tell from a distance whether the smoke is black. I can tell you, say, yeah, it's from wood. If it's white, I can tell you, say, yeah, it's from gasoline. So based upon your experience, you can do it based upon your investigation. But
I mean, you're not in the Vatican, man. We're not talking about smoke business here,
No, but I think somebody brought a smoke and said the cheese. But here's the thing. Let me ask you one question on it.
Now when I hear them miss kind of a guessing there.
No, it's not guessing. I can tell. For the smoke, you can tell as an investigator, you can tell whether the smoke from that smoke, you can tell what causes it, whether the smoke, whether it's a gasoline or whether it's a wood. That's one thing you can tell. So that one part is okay. But here's the thing. Let me ask you something. People keep emphasizing on the bringing old retired. Let me ask you one question. If you went to the hospital tonight and you have a broken leg, who do you want your orthopedic to be? The man who just graduated from college or the man who have an experience about 50 operations? Who do you?
No, but that's different, Jerry. That's different because you all have the equipment for you to.
No, that's different. Because
these people are private people. They don't have the state resources that they worked on before. They don't have the resources that they worked on.
Mr. Nawe, these people are coming with experience. I think Liberia will be very naive to say we're bringing somebody who does not have an experience in the investigation or who's not an nationalist. They're just going to bring it because they are former retiree. So that's that's my question I try to do.
Mr. Bacon, to answer your question
you raised, though, that takes us back to the whole characterization that this was caused by hooligan. You're saying it could have been an electrical fault.
Mr. Langman, you don't rule anything out until you can find the actual cause. You cannot just rule anything out and say, oh, that's electrical or as a first of all.
I just look at one of them. I just look at one of them. He's an investigator.
Time is fast spent. Let's go to the phone line, please. Let's go to the phone line. The guys on the phone line, they want to participate. And Mr. Bacon, to your question, I would not hire the doctor who have practiced for 20 years, 30 years, retire, and been sitting home.
You want a rookie?
I will go for the doctor who is practicing or has been practicing and still practicing for about 15 years and stay active. I will not go for the
Anthony, these are all conjectures, man. People retire, they form their own firm, they're practicing on the side and stuff. They may have resources, they may have, So
do we know that to be true?
All we read in the media is what we're going up
conjecture. Those are conjecture too.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the phone line, gentlemen. Let's go to the phone line, please. Let's go to the phone line. We have the man, Mr. Gonglo. Are you ready to participate?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Fascinating discussion. I just want to make a few points, starting with the USAID issue. I think our government officials are acting very lazy. If we put in context, USAID grant like Ahmed and Mr. Fremont explained, it's not direct budget support. It comes, for example, in the health sector. They say, okay, we're going to do XYZ projects. Whether it is, providing the equipment, training, providing training for workers in that sector, it costs it. The government take that cost and put it in the national budget and say, this is donor contribution to the budget. But it's not direct. So it has been like that historically. So if you stop it, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing to be jittery about it. I think the guys are jittery because they're actually caught in the web of their own creation corruption. So they're nervous about that, So that's how I see it basically. There's no need to panic about it. There's enough money in the country. All you need to do is
Mr. Gonglo, may I hold you to that, please? I like the way you put it, right? Well, this is not direct budget support. These are fundings that have been going indirectly to critical sectors like health, for example. Mr. Nambo gave an example to school feeding program. So if it is cut off, who steps in? One might think it is the government. So where would the government take the money from?
No, but Anthony, you see, that's the weakness of the Liberian government or the lazy job public service workers have been doing for generations in that country. The thing is, NGO donors come to the country. The country does not have a national format or frame to say, this is what we want to do. If you bring a donor form, this is how you can pick among these activities and put your form there. So in that case, when it is covered, you can say, okay, we have this play, we have this activities under our framework. This NGO or this donor was doing this part. Now they are moving, they have become our responsibility. But government of Liberia, from what I know, at least in the post-war democracy, they've never had program. Let's take the school feeding program. Ministry of Education never had that as part of their budget to say, we will be filling 2 million students this year. They don't have that. The NGOs come and say, okay, we'll do free school feeding program in countries that will believe, they are heavily affected of poverty, like bombing country, Mount, Lower Side. They'll feed these countries themselves. Government is not directing them. I know this for fact. They pick what they like in the health sector, they'll come and say, this is what we want to do. The government is not directing it. I was in several meetings with Ministry of Health. In fact, WHO tried to streamline the involvement of NGO based on Accra clarification that when funding, when donors come to the country, they must work, they must submit, the activity must be streamlined, must align with national priority and agenda. Liberia does not do that. Liberia does not impose that. It's an age-old issue. You can ask the aid coordination office at the Ministry of Finance is an age-old problem. Government of Liberian officials do not do it because the government has not really expected themselves, put their feet on the ground to say, based on the Accra clarification, which was an accord signed by developing countries and international partners, that when you come to the country, this is what you must do. You must align your program with national priorities. They're not doing that. They don't do that in Liberia. So there's no need to be jittery here.
Mr. Gonglo, Mr. Gonglo, I want to do justice to the time, but I have to push back on this, right? So I may mention some Liberians who are working for USAID. The individuals, they are tax withholding taken from their money that go into government. If they're not on the job as a result of the program being cut off, government is losing revenue. I have a gentleman by the name Cyrus Air Gray. Hold on. He said he worked for USAID and his bi-weekly pay, the tax we're holding from it was $906 that was going to the Liberian government. That is an example. And he also says here, USA pay a significant number of healthcare workers and teachers. So this is a significant chunk of money. And I think Tom said that the amount should be about, I think, 50 to 80 million that's been taken away here. That's been a help. So government have to find that money from somewhere. So you can't minimize this.
I think the concern to say you can minimize it, but if you just suppose that with the leakage in the revenue collection, IRA, in fact, now I understand from reliable source that GSC is in fact conducting a some audit about under the custom or something. IRA, there is historically a corruption scheme at IRA that a lot of the revenue in the country is not going into IRA. No.
So until you can close that bucket to save this kind of money, what's this money that has been taken away have been taken care of? Government have to come up with it, and to close a logo is not going to be an easy fight. And we don't have a kind of government that can fight it. We don't have one.
Anthony, I will say this to you. To the best of my knowledge, Liberia is very poor at allocating money. They allow the legislators to do it. The executive does not have. We have not had an effective executive from 2006 up to this president, up to the present. One of Madam Kelly, she came to UN in 2015 when the legislators allocated $15,000 to themselves. The interviewer, she said, I didn't give it to them. They just okay. We are sitting there, and the guys are increasing.
Did she veto? Did she veto the budget?
So we don't have an executive.
Did she veto the budget? Did she veto the budget? I think this is the two institutions are guilty about this appropriation.
No president in Liberia has vetoed any budget for the executive. I don't agree with what you put there. I'm vetoing it. They've not done that. They always agree with the legislature because you know what? They are doing it since the other people are doing too. So this is like, they are allies.
Dennis Colley, you scratch my back, scratch your back. That's what they've been doing. Let's get your take on the fire investigators. Let's get your take on the fire investigators. There are others waiting on the line, please.
I wanted to just provide clarification on this because I listened to someone. Someone was saying the so-called, I don't know, fire marshal or whatever that Gregory Como is bringing. Last night on closing argument, they were there and they were interviewed. They asked them specific questions. Because two questions. One, who is paying for this? And it was very clear. Government is paying for that. Gregory Como is the one that contracted them. You're going to pay for that. And the other question was, you don't think your mission is so late because arrest has been made a declarative and definitive statement has been made by government. People are now standing trial. What additional things can you do with your family if you go? And they were not clear on that. You know, they're going to be in hotels. I mean, the guy asked all these things. They're going to be feeding you. They put you in a hotel. They're going to give you transportation. How can we say that your investigation will be independent? And the answer was just all over the place.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to provide that.
Thank you.
Actually said that they have been paid by Gregory Coleman, the police argue.
Thank you. I have reason to believe. I know Gregory Coleman personally. I know he spent some time. He has family in Minnesota here. And while he was in Minnesota here, he was working along with the police and some of these fire chiefs. So he has contact with them. So I have reason to believe that he actually might have made that move to carry them there. But again, thank you, Mr. Gonglo. We have another caller on the line. That is the man, James Lazar. Mr. Lazar, you are live.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. So, Anthony, we're talking about the impact of the Donald Trump's executive order regarding UC and others. I think the impact is really, really great, and it's great enough that it might be a source of interest or glee in some quarters, especially for those who may have already thought that they've had an opportunity to, for the next election. And maybe that's why probably Mr. Weir has now, I think his mind to running, because to take out anywhere between 100 million to 300 million from the budget of the Liberian government means a lot. I don't currently know the fate of the MCC program at this point, although I know there are even strong Republican senators who are no representatives before Trump did this, when they heard about it before he actually executed it, and they were warning the Marco Rubio that the foreign aid amount is less than 1% of the U.S. They don't see why it's such. And so they might be keeping quiet now, giving Donald Trump his chance to impress his redneck support base. And later on, maybe that will be reversed. That is the main hope that the Liberian government can have. Other than that, it's going to affect that government significantly. Now, I don't agree with people who say, "Oh, foreign aid is not good, it's bad," and other things. What is it that developed Europe? That was foreign aid. The Marshall Fund was free money given to Europe by America. America single-handedly developed Europe, Japan, Britain, UK. But the thing is, there was no corruption there. There was accountability. It was applied. So there's big evil often spoken of in reference to foreign aid. It's just superficial. There's no way to it. So if it really, I'm hoping that Senator Lindsey Graham and others are keeping quiet now. After a while, they will be able to reverse the executive order, and countries like Liberia to get that. Unfortunately, our Marshall Fund.
Mr. Lazar, the bigger question, Mr. Lazar, the bigger question is, what do we do? People will tell you, strategists will tell you, hope is not a strategy, right? What do we do? Because you are saying, well, they may be taken away, they may not be taken away, but now it's being halted as we speak. All right. Tom, our resident economist here, mentioned that I think about Tom correct me with the numbers, about 14 projects have been stopped immediately. And that's going to cause pain for some people. Some people are losing their job right now in Liberia who work with these programs. So what do we do now instead of hoping?
I have a few ideas to prosper.
Yeah, go
For
ahead.
example, like I was talking about the Marshall Fund. I have written a little bit about the ATS office that used to be located right near the old law library. If you come in the hill from the Israel building going up to CWA, there used to be the old law library. Way back before then, there was the ATS office right before there. And that building that has been allowed to disappear because the government, the ATS was not as functional. The office there in Liberia wasn't as functional. They couldn't pay their taxes for the little land in the building. And it just went for that because of tax. Now, tax lane. So there's no issue of office for me. I don't know who can do that. If they can resuscitate that, that can be another. Even up to now, as developed as Europe is, they regard the existence of the microphone in Europe as very significant. It is there today. We need something that has to remind the Congress of their history, of their connection. That's important. America is going to be great for a very, very long time to come. Long time to come. We need that. That's number one. Number two, the other two ideas I have already been spoken about. I just want to stress it. It cannot be stressed enough. Let me say that. I think the real estate as my brother Kanye talked about, there is a lot of loopholes in there. We need to go there and capture that. All the buildings in Monrovia owned by, the old establishment, the Lebanese men, the Syrian men, even diaspora Liberians owning land, they don't pay taxes, they don't pay any taxes, nothing at the time. That's how the government is running the Maryland here. I mean, Maryland. You have to pay for land. If you don't pay for land, it can be seized, it can be resold. You have to pay your taxes for your property. That is not being enforced. People just collect rent, leaseholds, and they don't pay anything. We need to do that. And the LRA, I went there, I wanted to run, for example, Anthony, when I went to get my real estate document. I'm sorry for being so specific. I don't want to implicate anybody. But you could see that there were evidence that money that would be government, part of it could go into somebody's pocket. The LRA needs to be checked. And Jacob, my friend, Jacob Jala, he got a big name. He doesn't seem to deserve that. We need somebody more, I don't want to say competent, but more somebody of greater level of integrity, a commitment to go to LRA and really do something serious there so that more loopholes can be closed. That's how I see it about how we can raise funds. And you have a whole lot of people with cars over license plates.
Thank
you.
You
are losing money. You don't without any license plate.
Mr. Laza, before you go, number here, do you think it's about time the president thought about reshuffle?
Mr. Namwe asking you a question. He said, do you think it's about time that the government reshuffle?
I just say I'm just so impressed with the government. I think the government is delivering, even though it has a very poor PR out there. And I do think that what matters in that country is the silent majority. I do know the government is delivering. I listen when I'm going to bed, I'm listening to Liberian news. When I get up, I listen to Liberian news. I know that the government is delivering and its impact is being felt out there. You hear something on school and other things, and people on the radio station, or you go and listen to the stations in the country. You get different things. So the government is making impact. So I'm not looking.
I was asking because you seem to believe that Double Jala seems to be underperforming. That's why I was asking you that question. Oh, he's gone.
Well, maybe the LRA guys, anybody already, and the public works minister, brother Nambe, my good friend, the public works minister, I think he controls a lot of money, and I know he has shot him up. That is somebody who otherwise would be eager to be on the spotlight in the media. I see him shying away a lot. I am very suspicious of him. I think he's somebody that should be gone, and the LRA chief, something like that. Yeah, really. Other than that, generally the government is doing well. I'm particularly impressed with the finance minister, a civil service director, water and sewer, LBS, information, all of that. They are doing well. So in agriculture, education. Of course, I think the government is generally doing well. I'm not saying anything about that. In the end, it will be the silent majority. But look, regarding the fire thing, Tony, they went to the court. The case has not been tried yet. The trial hasn't even begun yet. What had started was they went to the magisterial court to establish prima facie, to establish that inside the case really has merit enough for it to proceed. So at the magisterial court level, I'm not a lawyer, by the way. I just read and listen. The magisterial court judge agreed with the government that indeed there is merit that this thing could be awesome, and with the evidence we have, we call it prima facie, first impression, face value, there is enough ground for the case to go. So now the case has been transferred from the magisterial court onward. Now, in terms of why the 5-7 people are going, I think there's just need for that. The perception is there. Liberians is just so unfortunate. Me personally, I'm so discouraged because Liberians don't seem to be patriotic enough. It's not only Liberians back home. It's also Liberians in the diaspora who are working, making enough money, but they allow their partisan and tribal connection to overshadow their patriotism, that's there. If that capital building was burned, there is overwhelming evidence that you can easily trace it with anybody. All that is left is to actually prove it and connect the dots. That's what they're doing, and the government is going to prevail. I listen to the justice minister. I respect him a lot, very well educated and of high integrity. He said, Dylan action during his confirmation, are you sure if any lawmaker does wrong, you're going to hold him accountable? You prosecute him? The justice minister said, yes, I told Dylan that I will. And for the fire case, I'm going to prove that I am from Newtown. If you come to Burma country, you can be from Newtown, I'll go after you. And this is an opportunity for me to prove it, quote unquote. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Prosecutor, and we are going to be nation who are even in America who cannot be patriotic enough and allow our partisanship and tribal connection to overshadow our own sense of patriotism and love for country and people.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. James Lassa, you are a politician. You should be the first to know that politicians will tell you they will do this. You shouldn't take them by the word. I mean, just to say, Oswald 12 said you will persecute people, so you believe that it will happen. I'm completely disappointed that because someone said something, you say, yeah, they will do it. We have so much. Their government is an example, a big one too. A lot of things they said that they would not do. The president told us it would not be business as usual all over the place. I don't know why you people can be thinking, why you people can be hearing, and believe these people who are offered no good other than to occupy bureaucratic offices and get all the fabulous check and do absolutely nothing. We are where we are because of that shared nonsense. Well, gentlemen, I think we are exhausted the two cakes that we had. And let's get to something which is closing. Time is fast spent, but let me double check. No, we don't have another caller. I think we did justice to the two topics. Tom, I will let you go first because sometimes your LEC can be harmonized, including your data. So you close first.
Thank you very much. As now that you mentioned LEC, let me start the closing on LEC.
Okay.
All over the world, it is very clear that in the electricity sector, they call it unbundling. You have to unbundle production of electricity, transmission, and distribution. You don't have a single company that do all three at the same time. In Liberia, the LEC does all three in Monrovia. Only out of time in Nimba County and Maryland, they've given it out to other companies to do it. When the recent energy compact was held, Mission 300 in, I think, Tanzania, all the investors that they asked to invest in Liberia energy sector, one of the indicators they are looking at is the profitability of LEC, whether LEC is profitable. Because if you want to go to any sector, you want to know whether the person that they're making money. And LEC is not profitable because of power theft. We need to get LEC out of the distribution and give it to private sector companies. I wish as part of the response to the reform that we are going through now, that can be the beginning point so that private sector can enter the market in Monrovia. I wanted to make a quick point on what Mr. Gongolo was saying, that because USAID funds is not on budget, it doesn't matter. It's not in our budget. They just come and implement projects. But these projects that they implement contribute to growth. Because even when we say annually, you say GDP, is the market value of the goods and services that are produced in that year. So whether it's on budget or off budget, it does contribute to growth. And therefore, it should matter. If that is the case, then we shouldn't worry when investors are leaving the country, because the money that the investors can bring is not in the national budget. It's outside the national budget, but it creates jobs, it consumes services, and therefore it should matter. I agree with him that on aid management, we don't do any aid management in this country. The only thing that the Ministry of Finance recently started doing is they have their website where they map the projects. When you're implementing project in Lofa and Grand Bassa, they put it on that website, they put the dollar value. That's why even what is happening now, for the government to measure the impact of it is very difficult. So we need to improve on aid management. On the overall, in terms of response, let them record the budget, let them recast that budget, take money from milk and tea and television scratch car, other things. Let's put it into agriculture. Let's put it into health. Let's put it into education. The AARD was just launched. I think January 15 it went live. I think there is a need to start looking at it because it's no longer the case that 30% of that plane will be funded by donors. America is withdrawing their money. Donald Trump is also asking countries in Europe to increase their defense spending. Great Britain has already said that they are increasing their defense spending from I think 1.5 to around 5%, and they are cutting down on aid. The Dutch government has said they are cutting down on aid. Germany will soon start cutting down on aid. So that 30% we're thinking that people coming with your money, they will not give it to us. So as part of recasting the budget, we need to pay keen attention to the AARD. Review all concessions. Where is the National Concession Bureau? They don't do anything there because the legislature does not allow them to do their work. Part of the governance is for everybody to do their work. Review our tax regime. I don't think we should be handpicking. We go to air ticket tax and put one executive order there. Let's review the whole tax regime and see where we can get additional money. Double Jala was sent to LRA to close the loopholes, and now is the time to close the loopholes. SOE reform. Let the legislature pass the law to change the Bureau of State Enterprises to an entity that will be created by the legislature. These are things to do as fast as possible. The CSA is a civil service agency. Constitutionally, it should be the Civil Service Commission that has the authority to set salaries in the public sector. That law is before them. They can pass that tomorrow morning and give that authority to the commission to reform the public sector wage bill. Accelerate fiscal decentralization, introduce program budgeting, do some pension reform, mandate and function reform. Somebody talk about it earlier. All the inefficiency where two ministries pointing over mandate, we need to go there and reform it and clarify the roles and responsibilities of everyone. And also to bring in people who can do the work. And I think that goes to what Mr. Nambo was saying. I think if we are going to reform and move forward, it will call for a reshuffle. If there are people who are sleeping, let them go out. People who got the capacity, let them come in so that we can do the heavy lifting that is required to stabilize right now, but to build a foundation for more inclusive growth and development moving forward. Thank you all very much for Moreover.
Tom, thanks for your contribution. Mr. Jerry Bacon, your closing, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having all these analysts tonight, for all the guests on the look. Two things we got to work on here. Liberia, it's time for us to start looking at ourselves. What is our responsibility? We need to take some responsibility for our action, especially when it comes to our finances and our governance. That's one of the things we need to look at. The second thing is, I have advocated for a long time. I have written articles in the newspapers on reform our police department and our security department, especially when it comes to the Capitol building. The Capitol building needs to have our own police department that will monitor and be able to guard our institution so that we will not have some of these things that go on. The police department, if we have police, Capitol Police won't be where we are right now. I mean, it could have happened, but it brings some independence on the Liberian police will be excluded. If they are going to do the investigation, now we have the police investigating, they're the investigator. So these are things we need to address. The second thing is that it is always obvious. We always bring international to help our investigation. So it's not the first time or second time or the third time happening in our country. So let's listen. Let the criminal justice is playing his way out, and we see where the chief go. You know, even though there are a few people who are on arrest, I don't know how many people we have on arrest. They are not even going for trial yet. So let us not preempt our judicial system. Let it work in the best interest of the Liberian people. Let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, you can go. Take care, buddy. All right. J. Victor?
Hey, great show tonight. Thank you guys very much. You know, it makes me proud whenever I'm on set with these people, smart people. So thank you very much. Look, I don't disagree with those who said if this stop order by the U.S. is managed properly, yes, it could be inconsequential. But then we're not talking about the Liberian government. We can't talk about the Liberian government and talk about managed properly in the same sentence. And this is not just about the Boakai government. The government from time immemorial has never managed pretty much a lot of things properly. Look, as we're talking here, the $880 million budget is on the move. There are projections in that budget that were based on international aid. Those projections they're gonna fall short. The budget from last year, there was almost $35 million a budget shortfall, even with the aid present. And so I think we'll help our people if we encourage them, to really take this thing seriously. I think any attempt to minimize it, I think then we'll be enabling the listeners that everybody is talking about. Yes, there is a way out of it, but it will be in the long term. But in the near term, the impact will be impactful. It will be grave. I don't see how we can minimize it. Some of the colleagues here already spoke about friends who already lost jobs. It's about 51 million now, but the count is not over yet. The totals are not in. Every day, Elon Musk and Trump are identifying other cuts, that should be Liberia. So the total is not in yet. So, I really encourage our people, please take this seriously, because if you don't, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering will result. On the fire incident, I was reading on these gentlemen, some of them from Texas, from Minnesota, and all these places, I hope they make an impact. But my question I ask, which I will continue to ask, if you're going to do all of this, what was the point of all that has been happening since October? What was that about? You knew you had put in a request for international experts. You knew they were coming. Then, what were we doing? It just seems to me like, we're just going through the motions, but we already have an objective in sight, and we just hurtling towards it. But again, hopefully this will be resolved. But the impasse at the Capitol building, which has been on for months, is the root cause of all of this. All of this, because you pull all this string, it goes to COFA. It is intended to remove COFA. I don't have a problem with COFA being removed, but he's been removed lawlessly, illegally. And we're seeing all the lawlessness right now. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but what is happening right now is gaining impetus from all of what everybody's witnessing, from the executive down to the legislature. Everybody is operating as they feel, almost in complete disregard to the law, to the rule of law. So, if you want to remove the man, remove him. If you cannot, go back to status quo ante and try again. Maybe you have another opportunity. We're reading the ECOWAS, people are even ignoring the letter that they wrote there to record these people. Everybody will continue to laugh at us because we're acting like little kids. This is really, really simple matter that is within the hands of the presidency. And I think they can resolve this. So we're calling on them to please act and resolve it. Thank you very much.
Honorable Graves, unmute yourself and keep your closing, sir.
Okay. Just want to say thanks again for having me, being a part of this all-important discussion, Tough Talking Thursday. Mm-hmm. As we close, I just first want to caution every one of us, fire chief is not a profession, it's a title. There you go. And also the case of the fire incidents at the executive mansion, in the case of the fire incidents at the Capitol building, there's nothing different. There's no difference in there, except you want to talk about political tensions. Political tension was then at the time when we had the GOL, which was the MPP group, with Speaker Snow being Speaker of the House, and there was a serious tension. That we even attempt. We heard all kinds of rumors. We were in the mansion, and we're taking precautions. So there were a lot of things happening. Not blaming anybody, not castigating anybody. So when forensic experts are looking for incidents, the cause of a fire, they're devoid of they're blind to political situation, implications or ideological differences. They're just looking for their professional work and what caused the fire. I just wanted to put that in. USAID. There are a lot of us, some of us have affiliation and work with them, so we know some of the things from the periphery that it did. Some know some of the bit of the inside, but there are a lot of things also that we do not know. The relations between our government and that organization, that agency. That agency has it started like a small group, and it grew. They got so enlarged and it got so big, more money, more staff, and they started taking on the foreign policy agenda of the U.S. government, unbeknownst to the State Department itself, Secretary of State. So they were running a parallel in foreign relations to the U.S. government. I think we heard about. So there are a couple of things that are covert. We don't know, but for the government to alarm this at this level means there was something more deeper than what we know on the periphery. We have elections every 6 years, but every year there are funds that go to the Liberian government that was recorded for voter confidence or voter education or whatever. And there are many other things to doing there. But anyway, to where I come from as a diplomat, working in the foreign service, working with as well as the president's office, this is the time to start planting our feet. Liberia is very unique. We have a distinctive approach that is rooted in principles of flexibility, resilience, and discipline when it comes to our diplomatic approach with our international partners and bilateral ties. That is borrowed. Where the inspiration came from, the bamboo that we have, the bamboo trees that grows in Liberia. I know many times this is attributed to Vietnam because on the international station, summits and whatever, everybody attribute that to Vietnam, but it's basically West Africa, Liberia. We came up with that concept of being resilient, flexible, as well as independent in our diplomatic approach. From the baboon, the inspiration from the baboon tree, where the root is strong, but the limbs are very flexible. They bend in every direction, and don't think you can root it out easily. No. So we have spread around. Our roots is ourselves, our resilience, the proclivity for work, and our ties to the U.S. But notwithstanding, we have other diplomatic relations. We have many other avenues. We have too many things to help to fit in this gap, as well as international organizations, as well as international financial multilateral organizations. So this is a time that the government really needs to get on its feet. We're independent now. Also, we need to create a climate of attractive business climate for international investment and trade. That we have to be strategic. Now, what are people doing abroad? What are people doing at the embassy in DC right now, our Liberian embassy? What are our foreign minister doing? What has she constituted in meeting all these different partners, these different parts on how to alleviate the tension back home domestically on the government? Sitting with the president, finding avenues and other things. So we're not just in one bubble. We have so many opportunities, so many ways, but we need the right people. Like I said, the perceptive, not just being full right, not just being of a full front approach, but the perceptive, that mindset, that forward thinking, proactive, and doing things. I think that's those are some of the things. Every country. Look, you look at countries like Thailand. You look at countries like South Korea. You look at countries like most other Asian countries. They don't have the resources we have. They don't have any other capacity, but they use their strength in a resilience, their know-how, the technical abilities and skills, getting out there, meeting groups. We need to get robust and start and to help this situation. I'm sorry I taken this time, and thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate being with you guys. I'm 50 minutes late for another event.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you leave right now.
We appreciate you. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. The New Progressive, you're closing.
Yeah, great show tonight, though very spacious in between time, but it's still a great show tonight, a diverse opinion. I want to say thank you for having me tonight. And I just want to say, listen, we're not understating the fact that the UCAID withdrawal from Liberia is not going to impact a lot of our brothers and sisters, but quite frankly, this is not an emergency. I don't think that what we're losing in physical cash with the use to withdraw is one that will constitute for us an emergency that we cannot fill in that gap if we curb waste in the government and try to curb leakages in our revenue stream. So we just need to put ourselves together and be fair to our country and let us see the true value that we have in there and use it for the right reasons. A few people are benefiting more than the majority of the population, and then when what comes from outside, the little that comes from outside, when it's cut down, we all scream like big thing happened, and then they put everybody in a panic mode. I don't think it's good for our country. Let us govern with good fiscal discipline. On the issue of the fire, I would say, quite frankly, I think the issue of the fire chiefs that came in the country to conduct investigation, I think is belated. I think the only good it's going to do for us is to maybe just give some justification to government to say that even expert came and evaluated and found that it was an arson attack, and that's it. All right, but the fact that we think it is independent, it is fair, like my brother Greaves was saying, the fact that the guys can only look for facts. No, we have had instances in Liberia before where maybe killings, for example, was politicized, where they brought expert from outside and came and said the person died from this, when everybody was, even the ordinary man look at the situation and say, hey, it's not possible that expert opinion is correct. And these are the same people who were in opposition telling us that all the expert opinion about Princess and other people were bogus expert opinion, right? And then some of them challenges, some parents even wanted additional expert to come from outside Liberia that government has no attachment to. So yeah, we appreciate the fact that we need expert opinion, but it should be done in a way that shows some level of transparency and accountability, and with some level of a good leadership, not force start that we normally would see. And I want to end by saying on this, as we go home, go to bed today, let us keep praying. The Gafan said, and in addition to that, thinking God will bless us to give us a relief from this problem.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a nice time here. I will start with the economic issues. The idea of paying attention to USAID is just a continuation of the dependency syndrome that continues to keep Liberia down. Out of that 50 million, like I said, no more than 5 or 10 million will come in the hands of Liberia. The other 40 million will be paid to Americans. But let me tell you what I'm worried about. George Weah and his criminal syndicate stole 178 million, about 180 million in covert operation. Today, there are no investigation, there are no prosecution. If we had prosecuted that, we could have recovered some of the money. We didn't. Joseph Boaga and his criminal syndicate have pumped in 20 million in NSA for the same covert operation. Between George Weah and Joseph Boaga, that's 200 million. Compare that 200 million with the money that the USAID is taking away. It's no comparison. So we have millions of dollars. We are wasting it, stealing it, and then going and asking the USAID for money. Take the other way. Public Works Minister mismanaged $20 million. He is still on his job. We don't have a problem with that. We seem to have a problem because the Americans say they're keeping money away from us. We are wasting our money. We spent, in 2 years, under Joseph Boaga, we spent $30 million on presidential affairs, $18 million on EPS, executive protection. Between presidential affairs and executive protection, that $48 million spent. How much did we spend on the National Food Assistance Agency over that same 2-year period? 1.2 million. Compare it. EPS and presidential affairs, 48 million. National Food Assistance Agency, 1.2 million over the same period. National Disaster Management Agency, 1.6 million over the same period. Compare it to the 48 million on presidential activities. National Public Health Institute, 8 million. So what kind of country will spend 8 million on health matter, but spend 50 million on presidential affairs? So we're not getting anywhere. We have to restructure our government. There is a duplication everywhere. Let me just take the economic side of things. National Investment Commission is there. At the same time, we got the Free Zone Industrial Agency. At the same time, we got the National Bureau of Concession. At the same time, we got the Bureau Special Economic Zone. What happened?
Then we have the National Investment Commission.
Yeah, in the Investment Commission, Free Zone Authority, Bureau of Concession, Special Economic Zone. What happened? Why waste the money like that? So we have money. We don't lack money. And if you look at it, what and the people stealing, what we are people stealing, we're talking about almost 300 million. So why if you stealing 300 million and you wasted all that money, why talk about 5 or 10 million that is not coming from the US government? I don't see it. So for me, it doesn't make sense. Now, with the side of the legal thing, when you go to court, your opinion will not matter. What will matter will be the law and the evidence. The law is that when you indict and you go to court and you put your evidence on the floor and the other party get to contest your evidence, as soon as you cross that point, that's it. That case cannot come back because it will be unconstitutional. Under our Liberian Constitution, Article 21-ish prohibits double jeopardy. You cannot prosecute the same person 2 times for the same offense. That is why right here in America, if people will wait 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, they will wait. Because it's the same double jeopardy. Because if you go to court and you miss, you're not coming back. So you may have your opinion to say, oh, or later on we'll tell the judge, oh, we left one more evidence behind, we left another evidence behind. All that thing is just your opinion. But the law is that you go to court, you put your evidence on the floor, it is get cross-examined. Not even the end of the case, just the fact that it is cross-examined. That evidence, that case is not coming back. That's the point I want to make. So yes, we don't lack money. The US government money they're taking away, it may be a little bit, but the amount of money stolen, the amount of money wasted is way too much to even worry about that. So let's worry about what is more important to Liberia. The stealing, the wastage, let's worry about that. When we solve that, then we can now look outside to say, let's form collaboration, let's form partnership. But you can't be wasting 200 million, 300 million, and at the same time, worry that somebody said they're taking away 5 or 10 million. To me, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense to other people, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you. Mr. Saleh?
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, everybody, and our viewers. Look, I won't spend much time on my closing. A lot has been said, very similar points. I think from what I deduced from people's closing here, we're saying similar things, if not one and the same thing. We want the country to be better. We want our government to meet the expectations of our citizens and to make us proud. To do that, radical reform will have to take place. And everybody talk about different aspect of reform. That what is fiscal reform, economic reform, and just governance and other types of structural reforms. That's what's needed. Again, as a statecraft, you got to engage in intentional, really patriotic and intentional project to move your country in the right direction. We're in the 21st century, and right now we are at the abyss of degenerating into lawlessness in the country. It's very fragile. It's gotten so fragile that some of us were saying even here are at risk of not being on the right path at all. And so my thing is, like everybody has said here, we need to now look. You can say on the operation side, so look, there's short term, there's medium and long term. approaches here, you know, and we can recommend any specific prescription because even the AID is a medium-term development agenda. So it's not even an ambitious way long-term, where we're saying 70% of it should be funded by aid, essentially. And if that aid is pulled from under our feet, or what are we saying? The rest of our majority of our budget and our revenue that come in should go to recurring costs, and we don't have development and investment money in the public sector. That is problematic. We're not going anywhere, like everybody has said. So I'll restrict my closing to those areas. And you know, we have a way of just saying things, and our leaders don't listen. We're not ambitious. It's not that we don't have the people who can get a job done. We do. But these petty things that really divide us, sectionalism, tribalism, different small differences, and our patriotism is not towards the state, is self-aggrandizing activities that we engage in. That has held us behind. Until we can shift our mind, that mental model is not carrying us anywhere. I don't mean to end on a negative note, but I think as Liberians, we have to talk and do. And this is the time to do. We don't have time to keep talking.
Thank you. Who's left? No one's left but me? All right. On that note, this is how we come to the end of this discussion. And one thing that we need to look at is finding alternative ways of raising money, revenue. I look at the government budget and I saw zero there for tourism, even though they are working on this tourism authority, something like that, but they don't have any money there for tourism. If you look at some of the countries in the Caribbean, they make almost, if not 90 to 80% of their revenue from tourism. And when we're talking about tourism, Liberia is strategic. Our history alone is enough to attract a lot of Americans here to come and see. We will make money. And, look at our beaches. If we can attract investment, our big five-star hotels around the coast of Cape Man, for example, around the lakes there, we can raise, if not millions, billions of dollars. But looking at our budget, and this is not the first time we have zero in the budget for tourism. It is sad. We have to find ways. We can't be dependent on people and crying that they are taking away what they've been helping us with. It will not get us there. On that note, I can't thank all of you enough for your participation. We will close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Gentlemen, thank you. To our audience, thanks as well. And bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our